Chapter 668. The war drums were like thunder, shaking the earth. The warhound's army charged forward like a dark mass, finally beginning their full attack. When they entered the range of the southern summer archers, a terrifying whistling sound came from the sky. It was like a dark cloud was covering them, instantly blocking the sunlight as countless arrows fell down. Ice, flames, and explosions. These talisman arrows had shocking destructive might, instantly causing the warhound's army to suffer heavy losses. Release the arrows. Counterattack. A warhound's chief personally led the charge. Let them see the might of the warhound's kingdom. The warhound's army charged forward with a strange roar, shooting arrows into the sky. Countless arrows fell onto the city walls, trying to suppress the resistance of the southern summer defenders with a rain of arrows. The refined ruler coldly ordered, "Activate the talisman array." The Shangwan family's people stood in a circle, each person holding a large flag covered in talismans. They suddenly inserted it into the city walls, and the energy from the talismans began to interweave, forming a protective barrier around the city walls. The warhound's arrows were all bounced off the protective barrier. The warhounds attempted to climb the city walls, but the southern summer country had already placed large amounts of talisman traps on the city walls. As long as the warhounds touched the traps, they would immediately ignite flames, frost, or explosions. How could it be easy for the warhound's army to climb the city walls? The southern summer defenders just had to hold their ground. It was victory as long as the city was not broken. The calm martial ruler had escaped from the battle in Song State and killed his way back, instantly changing the situation. The Fong King knew this, so he did not hesitate to go crazy. The Fong King coldly stared at the intense battlefield. "Move out with the vulture cavalry." Large amounts of black dots appeared in the clouds at this time. Countless warhounds, soldiers riding vultures passed through the defensive line and appeared in the sky above Imperial City. After all, Royal City was not a fortress. The frontline fortresses were almost completely enclosed fortresses, but it was impossible for Royal City to be enclosed. Therefore, the aerial troops could completely bypass the defensive line and land in the center of the city to launch an attack, breaking through Royal City's defenses from inside. Large amounts of warhound soldiers fell down from the sky like dumplings. The warhound's vulture cavalry had transported at least 30,000–40,000 elite warhound soldiers into Imperial City. If these 30,000–40,000 elite soldiers and 20,000 vulture cavalry attacked from the inside, it would be a large disturbance and trouble for the southern summer country. The Wild Flame Army blocked the enemy's airborne ground troops. The Burning Sun ruler immediately ordered the Nangong family's Wild Flame heavy armor to move out, creating a solid defense for Imperial City from the inside. Griffin Knights, go forward and tie down this aerial army. The 2,000-strong Griffin Knights had been waiting for a long time. When they received the Burning Sun ruler's order, they immediately flew into the sky and attacked the vulture cavalry 10 times their number in the sky above Imperial City. Although the Griffin Knights did not have the advantage in numbers, their aura was not inferior at all. The Griffin Knights were not weak level 2 demon beasts, and each of the Royal Knights was a top elite of the southern summer country. Even if the enemy was 10 times their number, they still had the ability to fight. This is the southern summer country's strongest trump card army. The vulture cavalry commander gave a cold laugh. Truly laughable fools. The Griffin Knights were the peak force protecting the southern summer country and Imperial City. In order to create the Griffin Knights, the southern summer country bought griffins from other countries at a high price each year and invested large amounts of resources into training the Griffin Knights. These Griffin Knights represented the southern summer country's authority in a sense. If they could defeat this army, it would be a destructive blow to the southern summer country's morale. Since they're seeking death, we'll let them see how strong our Eagle Burial Kingdom's aerial army is. The vulture cavalry commander loudly ordered, "Kill." The Griffin Knight commander faced the dense amount of vulture cavalry and immediately raised a spear high up as he shouted, "Prepare for battle." The two aerial armies moved rapidly against each other. Just as they were about to collide, the Griffin Knight commander loudly shouted, "Wind Blade Array!" 2,000 griffins simultaneously gathered their strength and released a wave of cyan wind blades. The griffins were much stronger than the vultures, so this storm-like wave of wind blades was very powerful. If they directly hit the vultures, they would definitely not be able to withstand it. In an instant, a large number of them would be wiped out. But how could it be this easy? The vulture cavalry was a regular army of the Eagle Burial Kingdom. Not only were they well-trained, they also had rich battle experience. When the griffins gathered their strength, the vulture cavalry were already prepared and dodged at the same time. The green wind blades passed through them, but not many of them hit their target. Looking from the ground, the orderly vulture cavalry suddenly exploded. All the vulture cavalry moved in different directions, instantly forming a semicircle that seemed like it was trying to swallow the Griffin Knights. Kill them! The vulture cavalry completely surrounded the Griffin Knights, sealing off the space around them. After all, the vulture cavalry had the advantage in numbers. If they used a blockade strategy, the Griffin cavalry's movements would be hindered. Although the Royal Knights were very strong and the Griffin mounts were very fierce, the Warhound's vulture cavalry were not bad either. Once they were surrounded by the vulture cavalry, it would be hard for them to escape in a short period of time. The Griffin Knight commander's expression changed. Break through. How could it be that easy? Shoot. The Griffin Knights only had one spear, and most of the time they fought, they relied on their griffins to charge at the enemy. The griffins could release strong wind blades, which made up for their lack of long-range attacks. So the Griffin Knights did not have long-range weapons. The vulture cavalry situation was different. The vulture beasts had thick skin and were very fast, but they did not have long-range attacks. It was because of this that the vulture cavalry selection process had to be divine archers. There were even some strong vulture beasts that were paired with 2 cavalrymen, one for close combat and one for long-range attacks, so they could work together seamlessly. The Griffin Knights had just entered close combat with the first row of vulture cavalry when a second and third row of vultures released a large wave of arrows. With the close-range attacks in front and the long-range attacks in the back, with this kind of long-range attacks and close-range attacks, the Griffin Knights would not be able to resist for long even with the Griffin's wind-attributed barrier. They immediately fell into a disadvantageous position and failed to break through the encirclement several times. It really wasn't good. The Southern Summer Country was a small country in the end, so they lacked experience in aerial battles. Even the elite Griffin Knights did not have much experience in aerial battles. When they fought against a trained aerial force, even if they had an advantage in individual strength, they would still be suppressed. Dong, dong, dong. The Warhound's black tide of attacks became even fiercer. Whether it was the Imperial City defenders or the Warhounds, their casualties kept rising. Because the Vulture Cavalry had dropped a group of airborne soldiers into the Southern Summer Country, the city walls were in chaos. There were quite a few Warhound soldiers that did not fear death climbing up the walls. Throw the bombs. Quickly. The Southern Summer defenders had no way to deal with the Warhound soldiers climbing up, so they could only throw the last batch of source energy bombs down from the city walls. Instantly, the earth shook as large amounts of explosions appeared on the city walls. Each source energy bomb released a terrifying light and heat, causing the Imperial City to tremble under this terrifying power. Each explosion occurred where the Warhound soldiers were gathered, instantly tearing apart over 100 Warhound soldiers. The Warhound's army was shocked by the terrifying might of the source energy bombs. The might of these weapons was just too terrifying. Don't care about them. Continue killing. The Southern Summer Country's city walls are about to be broken. The Warhound's army was incomparably fierce. With these powerful source energy bombs, although they could barely suppress the Warhound's attack, the Warhounds came back after a while, attacking the city walls like ants. In terms of defense, the Southern Summer Imperial City could not compare to the frontline fortress. Because the Imperial City was too big and there were too many people, there were 9 city gates. The Warhound's army attacked 7 of the city gates at the same time. Miracle Commerce's source energy bombs were very limited, and they were almost all used up, so they could not stop the Warhound's soldiers from attacking the city. The Southern Summer Country's proud Griffin Knights were currently being suppressed by the Vulture Knights, so they had no way to reinforce the defense. Instead, more and more Warhound soldiers were creating chaos in Imperial City, wantonly setting fires and attacking, making the situation even more chaotic. Finally, a Warhound's army successfully climbed up the city walls, and the following troops continued to pour in like a tide. Each one of them was fighting with no fear of death, making the Southern Summer Army much weaker in comparison. Meng Qingwu saw many parts of the city walls being invaded by the Warhound's army and knew that Imperial City could not be defended for much longer. She immediately said to the Burning Sun ruler and the Refined ruler, "It's about time." The two rulers nodded to each other. The Burning Sun ruler raised a flag high up, and a horn sounded in Imperial City. The Fawn King knit his brows when he saw this. Did the Southern Summer Country still have a move they hadn't used? At this time, the Griffin Knights, surrounded by the Vulture Knights, suddenly began to counterattack. The 2,000 Griffin Knights charged forward with a lance in one hand and a source energy submachine gun in the other. This weapon is... Wang Tianlong was shocked when he saw the weapon the Griffin Knights were using. Wang Tianlong was not unfamiliar with this thing. He had seen it in Chu Tian's hands before. But Wang Tianlong always thought that it was a special treasure. Who would have thought that the Griffin Knights would all have one? Wang Tianlong had seen the might of this weapon before. If everyone had one, how terrifying would that be? The Griffin Knight commander loudly shouted, "Kill them all!" The Warhounds did not even have time to react before the source energy submachine gun spat out a dazzling white flame. Several thousand energy bullets flew out at a speed faster than arrows. The firing speed was too fast, and the attack was too sudden. How could the Vulture Knights resist at such a close distance? Instantly, several hundred vultures fell from the sky, creating a gap in the Vulture Knights' encirclement. The Griffin Knights used a storm of bullets to create a gap in the Vulture Knights' formation, causing heavy casualties to the vultures. Then they charged down the city walls, and the muzzles of their submachine guns swept across the densely packed Warhound soldiers on the city walls. The sky was filled with densely packed, light bullets. This was the effect of 2,000 source energy submachine guns firing at the same time. When the source energy bullets weren't fired, not only were they small, they were also faster than arrows. Shooting at such a close distance, the Warhound soldiers did not have time to dodge at all. They were instantly killed, greatly reducing the pressure on the city walls. This was the Nangong family's over 10,000 Wild Flame heavy armor army. They held pistols in their left hands and large swords in their right, currently fighting the Warhound soldiers that had dropped in from the sky. There was no suspense in the result, as the Warhound soldiers were defeated in a single battle. How could they block this terrifying army? The Nangong family's Wild Flame heavy armor soldiers already had strong close combat abilities, and now, with the assistance of the pistols, they could easily pierce through an awakened soul cultivator's protective spirit energy. Even if these Warhound soldiers were elites, how many of them were awakened soul cultivators? This was a completely one-sided situation. They had regained their air superiority, relieved the pressure on the city walls, and cleared out the enemies in the city. The Southern Summer Imperial City was becoming smoother and smoother, so the Warhounds would not be able to break through Imperial City. These humans really do have some methods. The Fawn King's eyes seemed like they were spitting fire, but he was not flustered and exasperated. Rather, he calmly said, "How are the preparations on that side?" Wang Tianlong confidently said, "Please be assured, Fawn King. Everything is prepared. These fellows won't be happy for long." "Good. Inform the Demon Wolf Cavalry to prepare to attack." Chapter 669. They still couldn't escape this misfortune in the end. Now that they were about to enter Imperial City's territory, they never thought that a true spirit realm expert would personally chase after them. How could Chu Tian and Meng Qingwu fight against a true spirit realm expert? The little fox was tied down by the Thunderhawk, so it couldn't help them at this moment. Cripple your own cultivation and come with me. Malum was not in a rush. You can suffer less this way. Chu Tian considered the situation in front of him. I can go with you, but you have to let her go. No, Meng Qingwu quickly said. Chu Tian, you can't go with them. Of course, Chu Tian didn't want to mix with these warhounds fellows, but the current situation was not good for the two of them, so they could only think of a way to deal with it. At least they could keep their little lives and find a way to escape later. Prisoners of war don't have the qualifications to discuss conditions. What if I still have a bargaining chip in my hand? Bargaining chip? Ha ha ha. The power in your body? It can't be denied that it is very strong, but do you really have the ability to use it again? Malum gently sniffed. I can smell the aura coming from your blood. You are very weak, very weak. If you use it again, you will definitely die. If I die, you will fail your mission. Malum broke out in laughter again. A prisoner of war is actually threatening the victor with suicide? Let me tell you, your life is not important at all. Even if you die today, as long as you can bring your corpse back, it will be enough. You speak too much nonsense. I'll kill this woman first. The black blade was ignited in flames, and a terrifying energy wave created a wild wind. When it blew across the prairie, it was like a wave was being created. Fuck, I'll stake it all with you. Chu Tian floated into the air and released a powerful energy wave. Malum never thought that Chu Tian would actually dare to resist. Then let me see just how much this power can be used. Nether flame. The black blade was ignited in flames. When it merged with Malum's source spirit, it turned into a demon covered in black flames that shot out at Chu Tian like a meteor. Chu Tian, Meng Qingwu shouted out in panic. This was an attack from a true spirit expert's source spirit. This kind of attack was not something an awakened soul cultivator could block. Chu Tian's hands formed a seal, and his eyes suddenly opened. There were already 7 demonic pupils in his eyes, and a large amount of energy filled his body. He instantly turned into an incomparably tall, 9-eyed demon god. The evil spirit burning with black flames didn't even have time to approach. It was instantly intimidated by the pressure and dissipated in midair. It's here. It's this power. Malum revealed a wild look. This weak person, how could he have this kind of strong power? If he could extract this power and spray it into the space in front of Chu Tian, it would create a spatial fluctuation that was hard to see with the naked eye. The burning black evil ghost was directly shattered by the shockwave. Malum revealed a shocked expression. This person seemed to have many attributes of his source spirit, and he could easily switch between them. When he was in the fort, he had used his soul-attributed energy and instantly harvested the souls of 5-peak 9th awakened soul layer experts. Other than that, he at least had the ability to control spatial energy. For example, he could teleport or use spatial fluctuations. These were all controlled from the source of space. Spatial energy, this was a legendary, innate talent. Even in a giant empire, there were very few people with spatial energy. This person seemed to be able to use spatial energy. This completely subverted Malum's imagination. But so what if the other side was strong? Malum said with a cold smile. Your vitality is quickly weakening. If you keep fighting, you're dead for sure. I'll give you one last chance. Surrender to me and pledge your loyalty to the warhounds, and you can live. Malum was right. Chu Tian had released the power of his main source spirit twice, which had an unimaginable effect on him. Although his body had reached the second layer of the Starlight Immortal body, his physique was still too weak. Adding in the fact that his cultivation was not high enough, he could not resist the pressure of his source spirit on his body. Chu Tian blocked Malum's attack, and all the blood vessels in his body ruptured again. Large amounts of blood came out of his pores, and he couldn't stop himself from sweating. In just an instant, his entire body was soaked. One attack. He could only make one more attack. Chu Tian had already reached his limit. If he didn't care about the consequences, he would only have one more chance to attack. If he could kill Malum with this attack, the young miss would be able to return safely. If he couldn't kill Malum with this attack, the two of them would die here. Of course, Even if it was the former, Chu Tian might not be able to survive. Now it all depended on luck. The nine-eyed demon god closed 8 of its eyes and only opened one eye. This eye corresponded to the pale golden pupil in Chu Tian's eye, and an invisible power instantly exploded with Chu Tian as the center. What kind of attack was this? Malum did not feel any elemental energy fluctuations, but he felt a strong power that covered the sky and covered him. He couldn't help feeling a panic that was hard to suppress, because this power did not seem to have any defenses. It could pass through all energy and physical objects, so all defenses were useless against it. Malum's vision turned black and the entire world collapsed. There was a power that was affecting his mind that instantly stripped Malum of his senses, pulling him into a silent and dark space. A spiritual attack? Malum could already vaguely feel it. This power should be spiritual energy, but it was merged with the user's consciousness. In short, this was a form of divine sense. Chu Tian's divine sense had reached the mind's lamp, realm, and Chu Tian's spirit energy was very weak, so he could not use other kinds of energy. So, using a divine sense attack was the safest method for Chu Tian, and it was also the most suitable method for Malum. A divine sense attack was a spiritual attack. A spiritual attack was invisible and without a trace. Unless one had a strong divine sense or had a source spirit or cultivation technique, any defenses would be useless against it. The Warhound's tribe was a spirit beast race. The spirit beast race's deep spiritual domain research was almost negligible, and Malum's source spirit was clearly not a spiritual type. Although he did not know what realm his divine sense was in, it should be at the mind's eye level. Chu Tian's cultivation base could not compare to Malum's, but his divine sense surpassed Malum's. Therefore, using a divine sense attack was using his strength to attack the enemy's weakness. Endless purgatory. Malum felt a cold and terrifying voice explode in his mind. His surroundings began to change, and he felt like he had arrived in a world of lava. Beneath his feet was lava, and there were burning red iron pillars that rose high up from the lava. A ferocious demon with the head of a bull and body of a human was covered in hot lava. He held a burning red chain in his hand as he charged at Malum with a ferocious expression. Shwa! The chain in the Minotaur demon's hand shot out and trapped Malum's body. The flames on the chain made Malum feel an indescribable pain. It was like the flames were not only burning his body, but also his mind and soul. Scram! Malum roared as he broke free, causing the chain to shatter. A black blade slashed out, and the Minotaur demon gave a pitiful cry before turning into flames. You want to kill me with this kind of insignificant skill? Before Malum's voice fell, several outlines appeared around the lava lake. They were all terrifying demons with bull heads and human bodies. These monsters slowly rose up from the lava lake, each one holding a flaming iron lock in their hands. Malum felt like he was in trance. He felt like his body had been split in two, and there were 2 Malums in this space. They could even look at each other, but what was strange was that these 2 Malums were controlled by the same will. The Minotaur demon waved the burning chains to attack. Malum raised the black blade to cut the chains, instantly killing several Minotaur demons. What Malum never expected was that his other body would be hit by the chains, and that unbearable pain instantly spread through his body and mind. How could it be like this? Malum had 2 bodies in this space, and both bodies had their senses, but his consciousness was still the same, so the 2 bodies were not divided. It was like Malum's left hand and right hand being controlled by his consciousness. In other words, if Malum protected his left hand and his right hand was injured, Malum would still feel intense pain. Damn, what kind of evil technique was this? Malum controlled both bodies to repel the Minotaur demon. The third wave of Minotaur demons appeared. What made Malum feel fear and despair was that the number of Minotaur demons kept increasing and Malum's bodies kept increasing. When the third wave began, there were 18 Minotaur demons and Malum's bodies had become 3. A normal person's consciousness could only control one body. Now that his consciousness was connected to 3 bodies, Malum's control over his body became very stiff, and he often made mistakes in his control. The worst part was that any body that was attacked would suffer unimaginable pain. If all three bodies were attacked at the same time, Malum's consciousness would suffer 3 times the pain. Pung! The third wave of Minotaur demons was defeated. The fourth wave of Minotaur demons appeared. There were 36 of them, and Malum's bodies became 4. Malum almost lost control of his body and could only watch as the Minotaur demons wildly attacked. The 5th wave, the 6th wave, the 7th wave. Malum's bodies became more and more numerous, and he completely lost control of his body. Pa! Each body was hit by a whip. Malum instantly felt several dozen waves of extreme pain attack him at the same time. Malum almost fainted, but in this spiritual space, he was not allowed to faint. Malum's body was still splitting, and the number of Minotaur demons in the space was still increasing. The 100th wave, the 1,000th wave, the 10,000th wave. It was as if Malum had tens of thousands of bodies, and each body was tied to a red pillar by the Minotaur demons. Each body was being tortured by hundreds of Minotaur demons. Even the smallest torture, when magnified by 10,000 times, was enough to cause great harm. Not to mention that Malum's tens of thousands of bodies were enduring unimaginable torture. All of this gathered into a torrent of pain that fiercely attacked his mind and soul. Chapter 670. The Warhound soldiers dropped by the Vulture Knights were being pushed back by the Nangong family's Wild Flame Army. The Wild Flame Army was the strongest infantry army in the southern summer country. Each one was covered in incomparably thick armor. Even an early-stage, awakened soul cultivator would find it hard to break through their defenses. Moreover, the Wild Flame Army was trained with the Nangong family's secret technique, so they were all tall and strong, almost not feeling pain. Although they were in the peak 9th body refinement layer, their individual strength was close to an awakened soul cultivator. An entire 10,000 Wild Flame warriors, with giant broadswords in their right hands and source energy pistols in their left. The Warhound soldiers failed to break through the encirclement several times and were finally forced back together. Almost at the same time, the Griffin Knights supported the city walls, instantly eliminating the pressure on the Southern Summer Army, giving the Southern Summer Army enough time to regain their footing. Although Imperial City was in a mess because of the flames of battle, the most dangerous wave of attacks had been blocked at this moment. The Griffin Knights once again began fighting with the Vulture Knights. Each Griffin Knight had at least one energy magazine left. In front of the high-firing speed and firepower of the source energy submachine guns, the Vulture Knights could not form a proper battle formation. After several rounds of attacks from the Griffin Knights, the Vulture Knights had suffered 3-4 times the casualties of the Griffin Knights. Ah ha ha ha! The Burning Sun ruler punched a Warhound general's body. His body was covered in blood, and his red hair danced in the wind. He stared at the retreating Warhound soldiers and gave a wild laugh. The Warhounds only amount to this much, daring to attack my southern summer country. I'll make sure you never return. The refined ruler had killed several enemy, high-level generals. At this moment, the most dangerous wave of attacks from the Warhounds had been blocked. The Warhounds' Vulture Knights had suffered heavy casualties, and the elites that had landed in the city had been chased by the Wild Flame Army, with most of them dying. The Warhounds had surrounded the city and suffered heavy casualties. If they chose to retreat now, it would not be easy to attack the city again. On one hand, after this battle, the southern summer country's confidence had increased. On the other hand, the calm martial ruler was about to return, and the southern summer cavalry did not have much time left for the Warhounds. Miracle Commerce's source energy weapons had played a crucial role. It was because of the powerful source energy weapons that the Griffin Knights could escape from their disadvantage, allowing the Wild Flame Army to easily defeat the Warhounds' elites. It was also because of the deterrence of the source energy weapons that the Warhounds' main experts, including the Fong King, did not dare make any rash moves, greatly reducing the pressure on their defenses. The refined ruler took out the dark gold pen from the chest of a Warhound general. When his eyes swept over the Warhound's army below the city, he suddenly noticed a different situation. Where did their main cavalry go? With these words, the Burning Sun ruler was also alerted. The most important part of the Warhound's army was the demonic wolf cavalry. This was an army with a battle strength that made people's blood run cold. Only no matter how intense the battle was, the Fang King was able to remain calm and did not use this army to attack the city. Now that he looked over, he was shocked to find that the nightmarish Black Army had already disappeared. The Southern Summer people were cheering for their victory. The Burning Sun ruler looked at the Fang King. Although they were very far away, the Fang King's eyes did not contain any anger or defeat. Rather, there was a deep sense of cunning, as if he was waiting for something. This is bad. Could it be that he still had a backup plan? When the Burning Sun ruler and the Refined ruler felt this was bad, there was a series of sounds of fighting that came from the center of Imperial City. There were also the faint roars of angry wolves mixed in. The Warhound's elites that had been suppressed by the Wild Flame army suddenly began to fight back like they were on steroids. Before the Wild Flame army could even react, from the roofs and corners of the surroundings, there were even people that jumped over the walls. Like a flood, thousands of Black Wolf cavalry suddenly appeared. This is bad. It was too sudden, and the Wild Flame army did not have time to counterattack. Countless Demon Wolf cavalry swarmed in, instantly cutting into the Wild Flame army's formation. Moreover, their numbers kept increasing, surpassing the Wild Flame army in an instant. It was like a group of wild dogs fighting for a delicious piece of meat, instantly throwing the Wild Flame army into chaos. The Warhound's cavalry had appeared in Imperial City. Everyone turned pale with fright. What was going on? Why would the Warhound's cavalry appear in the city? A person quickly ran over to report. The enemy is coming from the Nangong family's direction. This is impossible. The Burning Sun ruler could not help but believe this. A large group of incomparably fierce black figures were continuously charging out. The agile Demon Wolf cavalry jumped from roof to roof, constantly killing the innocent civilians and soldiers on the streets. 5,000, 8,000, 10,000, 20,000, 30,000. The Wild Flame heavy armored army that the Burning Sun ruler had stationed in the city was instantly submerged. The Demon Wolf cavalry became larger and larger, as if they were coming out in an endless stream. What the hell is going on? The Burning Sun ruler angrily roared out, but he suddenly thought of something. Could it be that the family's secret passage has been? The entire Imperial City was built by the three great clans of the Southern Summer Country. So during the construction of the Imperial City, the three great clans must have built a secret passage to the outside of the city. This was not a strange matter at all, but the security of the secret passage was very high. It could not be opened from the outside, so it could only be opened from the inside. There were not many people in the Nangong family that had the authority to open it, especially in this kind of wartime situation. Then why would the secret passage be opened for no reason? At this time, countless Demon Wolf cavalry suddenly surrounded a small group of Nangong family soldiers. The one leading them was not anyone else. It was actually the Burning Sun ruler's son, the Departing Flame Marquis. The Departing Flame Marquis was accompanied by several thousand Departing Flame guards he had personally trained. Departing Flame Marquis. Why is the Departing Flame Marquis with the Warhound's people? Damn, did the Departing Flame Marquis let the enemy in? If the Departing Flame Marquis opened the Nangong family's secret passage, then everything would be logical. After all, the Departing Flame Marquis was the head of the Southern Summer 8 Marquises and was the only first-class Marquis. He had the powerful Departing Flame soldiers and had the authority to open it. Even if the family opposed it, the Departing Flame Marquis could still open it. Ha ha ha. A true Spirit Realm Warhound's chief laughed beside the Departing Flame Marquis. You never thought that this would be your end. The Burning Sun ruler's face turned red and black. He was so angry that he spat out a mouthful of blood. Nangong Ling, you unfilial son, you've made this old man unjust. You've made my family unjust. Old fellow, you've gone senile. The Departing Flame Marquis, Nangong Ling coldly said. The Southern Summer Imperial City has a population of 7-8 million, and this bustling city will be destroyed by you fools. I'm only doing this to protect the citizens. The Fawn King has already promised me that as long as I help him take down Imperial City, he will spare the citizens and make me the ruler of the southern summer country. As for you, why are you still stubbornly resisting? Betraying your country for glory, but you have to use such a grand excuse? The refined ruler was filled with rage. Imperial City was about to be defended, but who would have thought that this kind of twist would occur? You are the shame of the southern summer country. Nangong Ling did not care. No matter what you say, the Dongfang family southern summer country cannot be protected. The Nangong and Shangwan families do not need to be buried with him. The true Spirit Realm War Hound's chief on the side was already impatient. Too much nonsense attack. The Demon Wolf cavalry wildly charged at the city walls. The southern summer country's defenses were all external, so now that the enemy was attacking from within, how could they defend? The Fawn King could feel the change in the city from outside the city. He gave a cold smile and raised the purple-gold Thunder God's drum in his hand. The time has come. Follow me to attack the city. The Fawn King personally made move. Other than the Fawn King, the Warhound's kingdom had at least 4 other true Spirit Realm experts. The number, scale, and battle strength of their army far surpassed the southern summer countries. Now that they were attacking Imperial City from the inside, how would the southern summer country defend it? 2 rulers of the southern summer country, let me face you. The Fawn King stomped on the ground and jumped several dozen meters off the city walls. Using the depression in the city walls, he jumped several dozen meters again and actually landed on top of the city walls. The city walls were already burning, and the soldiers were resisting the enemies coming from all directions. How could they concentrate their firepower on the Fawn King? The Fawn King casually raised the purple-gold Thunder God's drum in his hand, and several southern summer soldiers surrounding him were turned to ashes by the lightning. The Burning Sun ruler said to Meng Qingwu beside him, "You guys retreat first. Retreat to the royal palace." Chen Bingyu brought Meng Qingwu away from the battlefield. This battle was not something they could interfere with. The Fawn King didn't chase after them. He didn't feel it was beneath him to do so, because in the entire royal city, only these 2 people were worthy of being his opponent. The Burning Sun ruler and the Refined ruler did not say a word as they attacked the Fawn King at the same time. Hong, hong, hong. The entire city walls exploded. 3 true Spirit Realm experts fiercely clashed, and the destructive power of this level of battle was very shocking. Large pieces of the city walls collapsed, and the scene turned into chaos. At this time, 3 figures flew out at the same time and landed on the ruins. Both sides had only exchanged a few moves, but the Refined ruler and the Burning Sun ruler were both injured, while the Fawn King did not seem to have any injuries at all. He still had a relaxed appearance, and just from this point, it could be seen how big the difference in strength was. The Fawn King said with a laugh of ridicule, "The 3 rulers of the southern summer country only have this much strength." At this time, they were surrounded by the Warhound's army on all sides. The Burning Sun ruler and the Refined ruler looked at each other. Retreat. The 2 of them retreated, and several Warhound's plains chiefs chased after them, but they were stopped by the Fawn King. The Fawn King calmly said, "There is no need to worry about 2 true spirit cultivators. Our mission is to take down the southern summer country's Imperial City. Even if the Song State cavalry arrives, they won't be able to turn the situation around. No matter what tricks the other side plays, victory will still belong to us in the end. Yes, you will lead the troops to sweep through the southern summer army and destroy their last resistance." The Fawn King's eyes were as cold as ice. As for these people, it doesn't matter if they live for a few more hours. Chapter 671. This kind of attack had never been heard of before. The endless duplication of pain, the endless creation of torture, when the unbearable mental torture was magnified by 10,000 times, then the instant impact on the spirit. This was like a monstrous wave slamming heavily on the weak dam. The result was almost no suspense. Malum was perhaps a warrior with extremely strong willpower. Only, The mental torture was enough to collapse any warrior, not to mention 10,000 times. Perhaps the strongest warrior in the world would die from a mental breakdown after receiving this kind of terrifying attack. Even if they survived, they would most likely become crazy. This was endless purgatory. Chu Tian's incomparably powerful divine sense attack. That pain and torture continued to attack the spiritual dam, causing his mind to collapse. When Malam's consciousness was about to collapse, the purgatory of his spiritual world popped like a bubble. The nine-eyed demon god's power disappeared. Chu Tian's face turned pale as sweat poured down his face. Damn, just a little bit more. Malam was thrown back into the real world, and with a pitiful cry, he fell to the ground. His body twitched, and his mind was heavily injured, temporarily unable to recover. His mind hadn't completely collapsed. Malam's cultivation was higher than Chu Tian's, but because of his advantage in cultivation and his strong willpower, Chu Tian could not directly suppress him. He could resist the divine sense attack for a bit, but this consumed quite a bit of Chu Tian's strength. So the full set of attacks could not be fully displayed. Now that it had been forcefully interrupted, it could not completely collapse Malam's mind. This is bad. He really did not have the strength to launch a second attack. Meng Qingwu did not know what had happened because the flow of time in the spiritual world was different from the material world. Chu Tian had tortured Malam for a day and a night in the spiritual world, but it had only been a few seconds in the real world, so the bystanders could not feel the entire process. Meng Qingwu could only see that Chu Tian had glared at Malam, and Malam had been heavily injured, almost losing control of his mind. Chu Tian had also collapsed to the ground. What had happened? Chu Tian couldn't move on the ground, but he shouted through gritted teeth, "Fox, take this chance and quickly take care of him." The little fox's eyes released a green jade glow. It used all its strength to control the Thunderhawk's mind, and the Thunderhawk's beak turned blue, condensing a thin bolt of lightning. The Thunderhawk seemed to be resisting the little fox. The little fox gave a sharp cry, and the Thunderhawk's body trembled. The little fox's divine sense completely penetrated the Thunderhawk's mind, and the Thunderhawk was finally controlled by the little fox, letting out a clear cry. Damn! Damn! Malam's body was trembling, and he couldn't even lift his blade. My body. I'll kill you. I'll kill you. Chu Tian had already fainted. Malam had suffered a serious spiritual injury, and it was very hard to recover from a spiritual injury. It would accompany him for a lifetime, but at least Malam was still alive after suffering such a strong attack. Chu Tian couldn't resist because he used too much strength. You all have to die. Malam's body trembled as he knelt down. His eyes seemed like they couldn't focus as he shook his head. His eyes turned red as he gave a low roar like a wild beast, reaching out to pick up the blade on the ground. Hell, nether flames. The trembling blade released a surging flame that spread indiscriminately in all directions. Malam clearly didn't have a way to accurately attack, so he could only use his true spirit realm cultivation to attack over a large area, killing everyone at once. The Thunder Eagle let out a sharp cry as it swooped down. A streak of lightning struck Malam's body and instantly sent Malam flying, heavily landing on the ground. He did not hold onto the long blade, and it flew several dozen meters away. Home! A black fire dragon swept across the ground in an instant, creating a deep scar that was startling to the eye. Malam stood up with an unwilling roar. When the Thunderhawk's claws swept out, he used his bare hand to block it. Half of his body was pushed into the ground, and the Thunderhawk flapped its wings, wanting to fly away. Malam released his spirit energy with a roar, and a terrifying power locked onto the Thunderhawk's body, slamming it into the ground, trying to tear the Thunderhawk in half. The little fox was anxious. If the Thunderhawk was killed, there really wouldn't be anything they could do. The little fox didn't have any strength, and its demonic techniques could only summon and control. It was only effective against demon beasts, so it couldn't deal with Malam. At this critical moment, Meng Qingwu decisively pulled out Chu Tian's netherworld sword and quickly charged at Malam. While Malam was wildly swinging the Thunderhawk, She stabbed her sword at Malam's back. Dang! Meng Qingwu's spirit energy bounced back 4 or 5 meters. She felt a sharp pain in her wrist, like her joints were sprained. No, the other side was too strong. Even if he was unconscious, she couldn't easily injure him. The little fox found a magazine beside Chu Tian, and it immediately went to pick it up. This was a magazine filled with blood-stained steel needles. The little fox bit out the needles and swallowed them. Qingwu forcefully waved her claws. Meng Qingwu nodded. The little fox spat out several blood-stained steel needles, and each one was covered in a demonic technique. They flew at Malam at a speed close to the speed of sound. Malam was unconscious right now. How could he distinguish this kind of attack? He didn't even maintain his protective spirit energy, and all the needles landed on Malam's divine sense. There were 2 needles that directly stabbed into his eyes. Malam gave a wild roar as he randomly swept out with his claws, creating 5 deep claw marks in the grass. This was an attack from a true spirit realm expert. If one was hit, they would die without a doubt. However, Malam was unconscious, so it was hard for him to accurately hit Meng Qingwu. Meng Qingwu had to take this risk. She raised Chu Tian's netherworld sword and stared at Malam. She only had one chance, so she had to succeed. At this time, the netherworld sword began to glow. A faint blue and white flame covered the sword blade. Meng Qingwu was very surprised. This sword had lent its power to her, but Meng Qingwu was clearly not the netherworld sword's master. This was the difference between the netherworld sword and a normal soul-contracting weapon. A normal soul-contracting weapon's weapon spirit did not have a high ability to think, but the netherworld sword's weapon spirit already had its own consciousness. So when Meng Qingwu picked up the sword, the weapon spirit netherworld would decide whether or not to resist. Now that Chu Tian had fainted from his heavy injuries, Meng Qingwu had to kill the beast spirit to save her master's life. Because of this, the netherworld sword did not resist Meng Qingwu. Rather, it took the initiative to increase the might of this attack. Meng Qingwu used all her spirit energy and suddenly jumped forward. The sword blade drew a blue and white arc as it slashed at Malam's neck, directly cutting off Malam's head. Blood sprayed out. This peak expert of the Warhounds tribe had died in the hands of the weak Meng Qingwu, who did not have any battle talent. Meng Qingwu never thought that she would have the chance to kill a true spirit realm expert. The little fox let out a sigh of relief. Its little life had been saved. Meng Qingwu searched Malam's body a few times and found a small, delicate bag. Meng Qingwu could feel a faint spatial energy in the bag, so it should be a spatial item, which was a storage bag. Although it only had 5 cubic meters of space, it was still a spatial item. Meng Qingwu did not have time to look at what was inside. She took Malam's black blade and returned to Chu Tian's side. She leaned over his chest and listened. His heartbeat was slow and weak, but he shouldn't be dead. Meng Qingwu was not clear on Chu Tian's injuries, but it shouldn't be good. Meng Qingwu carried Chu Tian on her back as she gritted her teeth and headed for Imperial City. Yesterday, Chu Tian carried her, and today it was her turn to carry Chu Tian. The two of them were truly a pair of enemies. But Meng Qingwu did not go too far. Around several dozen kilometers away, she found a southern summer sentry post. When Chu Tian showed his identity, the sentry captain brought out a beast carriage and personally sent the two of them back to Imperial City. Imperial City was already in chaos. The great scholar Gu Qianxiu had brought news of the front lines falling a day earlier than Chu Tian and Meng Qingwu. Gu Qianxiu was also heavily injured when he returned to Imperial City. Because many people had personally seen it, the news could not be blocked, and this caused many people to panic. In just a short day, several thousand soldiers had escaped from the front lines. The news these people brought back shocked the citizens of Imperial City. The Fang King had led the Warhounds' army to attack the front lines, and the entire defense line had collapsed. The Southern Summer King, who was patrolling, had been assassinated by the traitor Wang Tianlong. 2 pieces of bad news had arrived at the same time. The entire Imperial City was not prepared for this at all. Now that the calm martial ruler was out, the Tsang State battlefield was in a stalemate. Even if the calm martial ruler received the news, he would not be able to come back in time. Even if Imperial City had 400,000 soldiers and 2,000 Griffin Knights, could they stop the Warhound's army? When the Southern Summer King fell, he appointed the calm martial ruler, Dong Fanggan, as the next king. Perhaps even the Southern Summer King did not think that the Southern Summer Country situation would deteriorate to this degree. The Warhound's army had broken through the defensive line in a single day and were now heading towards Imperial Xia City. There would be a large battle in just a few days. Whether it was the leaders of the country or the military, they were all empty. The entire country was in a state of panic, and the situation was in danger. At this time, Miracle Commerce's Meng Qingwu came back with Chu Tian. Meng Qingwu was a famous person in Imperial City and was even called the #1 beauty of the Southern Summer Country. Chu Tian and Meng Qingwu had gone with the Southern Summer King to patrol the defensive line. So when the front line was broken through by the Warhounds, the two of them would most likely be in danger. No one would have thought that Meng Qingwu would actually come back alive. Meng Qingwu had come back alive, but her appearance was not relaxed at all. Her snow-white clothes were covered in mud and blood. Her hair was a mess, and her face was haggard and weak. She was limping as she walked, clearly having an injury to her leg. Chu Tian's situation was even worse. He was currently unconscious, and his life signs were very weak. Elder sister Chu Tian, Meng Yingying, and Nangong Yin had been worried for an entire day in Imperial City. When they learned that the two of them had safely returned, they excitedly rushed out to greet them. "You guys almost scare me to death." Meng Yingying's eyes were filled with tears as she tightly hugged Meng Qingwu. "You two are the most important people to Yingying. If anything happened to any of you, I wouldn't be able to live." Meng Qingwu patted Meng Yingying's back and also let out a sigh of relief. "There were many times when I thought I would never see you again. But thanks to Chu Tian risking his life, I was able to come back." But Chu Tian's situation is not too good. Meng Yingying's nerves tensed up. When she saw Chu Tian's body covered in blood, she couldn't help but cover her mouth. What happened to Chu Tian? How did he get injured? How are his injuries? I don't know either. Chu Tian was not injured. Most of his injuries were self-inflicted. As for the extent of his injuries, Meng Qingwu couldn't guess. But from his increasingly weak signs of life, it was probably very serious. Chapter 672. Chu Tian had been in a chaotic state for the past few days. He felt like he was floating in an empty space, and there was a mysterious and profound sound lingering in his ears, sometimes near and sometimes far, sometimes strong and sometimes weak. Chu Tian felt like his body was immersed in chaos, and he was sinking into a bottomless abyss. However, at that moment, a towering and majestic demon god appeared in the endless darkness. This demon god had 9 eyes, and each eye had a different color. Each color represented a profound power in the world, and each eye seemed to contain the great Tao of heaven and earth. White was space, silver was time, green was life, black was death, purple was soul, and gold was divine sense. The 9 eyes all represented an extraordinary power. The 9-eyed demon god was not just elemental energy, it was a supreme being that had 9 kinds of power combined into one. Chu Tian was very familiar with the 9-eyed demon god's power, because he was Chu Tian and Chu Tian was him. It was just a reincarnation. However, what surprised Chu Tian was that the 9-eyed demon god gave him a very unfamiliar feeling at this moment, because there was another eye on the 9-eyed demon god's body. This eye was closed the entire time, but it was filled with an incredible power. This eye is... Chu Tian felt like the 10th eye was about to open and an irresistible power covered him, pulling Chu Tian out of the abyss of his consciousness. Was this just a dream? Chu Tian was covered in sweat when he woke up. The 10th eye was the power sealed by the nameless ancient god. The nameless ancient god had warned Chu Tian before not to open this eye easily. Otherwise, it would bring unimaginable consequences. What kind of power did this eye represent? Chu Tian felt a strong headache. Although he had rested for several days and his body hadn't recovered, his spiritual energy had returned to normal. At least he could get out of bed and walk. Ying, why is it so noisy outside? Chu Tian, you're finally awake. Meng Ying had a bitter expression as she looked out the window. When she heard Chu Tian's voice, she turned around in pleasant surprise, but then she said in a worried and fearful voice, "The Southern Summer Army has been defeated again, and the war hounds have killed their way into Imperial City. All the soldiers and civilians have surrendered and are fighting to the death, causing the entire Imperial City to fall into chaos." What? They've been defeated again. Chu Tian immediately sat up. What are the Southern Summer Army doing? The front lines fell because of a sneak attack, so they weren't prepared. But how did Imperial City fall? Meng Ying gave a sigh. I don't know. Elder sister won't let me go out, but I heard Elder sister Nangong say that it was the departing Flame Marquis who betrayed us and led the Warhound's army into the city through a secret passage. They worked together to break the city. Another traitor? Chu Tian felt a headache. If even Imperial City fell, wouldn't the Southern Summer Country be finished? Like this, what would happen to the miracle commerce that Chu Tian had spent half a year to build? Where are we? Chu Tian found that this place was not Miracle Commerce's headquarters. The Royal Palace. For safety, Elder Sister ordered her subordinates to destroy the Yun Sect research facility in Imperial City and burn the headquarters. Then she brought the other Miracle Commerce members to the Royal Palace. The Burning Sun Ruler and the Refined Ruler still have over 100,000 soldiers who are defending the Royal Palace, but there are too many enemies. I think we can't defend Imperial City anymore. We need to discuss a retreat plan. Quickly come with me. Before he finished, the door was pushed open and Meng Qing Wu quickly walked in. When she saw Chu Tian sitting up, she revealed a surprised expression. Chu Tian, you woke up at the right time. Chu Tian did not know what had happened recently. You just said retreat? What do you mean? There's no time to explain now. Every minute is more dangerous. Meng Qingwu quickly said to Meng Ying, quickly, let's go to the main hall. The main hall of the royal palace was not as peaceful as it normally was. At this moment, there were soldiers wearing armor and looking out from the main hall. Half of Imperial City was burning. The thick black smoke had already covered the sky. Chu Tian saw several familiar faces like the Burning Sun Ruler, the Refined Ruler, Gu Qinxiu, the Divine Wind Marquis, the Golden Arrow Marquis, the Four Direction Marquis, and others. Everyone was covered in blood from the fierce battle and were covered in wounds. Everyone revealed a complex expression when they saw Chu Tian. Chu Tian weakly said, The general situation, I've already heard about it. Now that Imperial City has fallen, there are only a few hundred to 20,000 soldiers left to defend the royal palace. I'm afraid we won't be able to stop the warhounds for long, so it's too late to do anything now. Have you thought about how to retreat? The Burning Sun Ruler beat his chest in regret. The fall of Imperial City is all this ruler's fault. How could the Nangong family have such an unfilial son? The situation is already over. It's too late to regret. The Refined Ruler had a defeated look on his face at this moment. The Southern Summer Country's north can't be defended. The Imperial Region, Song State, and the departing Flame Marquis Furnace State will be lost. But the Southern Summer Country has 6 states to the south, with each state having over 100,000 soldiers. There are also the tens of thousands of miles of mountains and the endless 4 states lake as a barrier. Perhaps they can stop the warhounds from swallowing the Southern Summer Country. What we need to do now is to try our best to preserve the Southern Summer Country's strength and defend the 6 southern states. The current situation was truly hopeless. The Fong King had experts like clouds in his hands, and his army had an overwhelming advantage. Imperial City had fallen into chaos and was heavily damaged. Now that it had developed to this point, not to mention, it was impossible to turn defeat into victory. So what if they created a miracle and drove away the Warhound's army? The front lines had collapsed and Imperial City had been destroyed. Was there any meaning in the Imperial region like this? At this moment, it was better to preserve their strength and move to the south, using their geographical advantage to block the Warhound's invasion. The problem was how to move. The sounds of fighting outside were becoming more and more intense. The Burning Sun Ruler said, The Dongfang family has a secret passage in the royal palace. The eldest prince Dongfang Haoran has the authority to open it and knows the method to open it. Now I ask the great scholar, the country-guarding ruler, and the dukes to bring the remaining 1,000 royal knights and 20,000 elites of the three races to leave Imperial City through the passage. Of the 6 southern states, Central State has the best position and can become the new center of the southern summer country, preserving the last bloodline of the southern summer country's various races. Dongfang Haoran was also covered in blood, but he immediately walked out. Understood. If this many people leave, will the warhounds not care? The Burning Sun ruler revealed a determined expression. Leave in peace. The refined ruler and I will lead the last of Imperial City's elites and fight the warhounds to the last moment. With us stalling for time here, they won't be able to chase after you. The meaning behind these words was that the Burning Sun ruler and the refined ruler were prepared to fight to the end. Why must the two rulers defend a broken city to the death? Gu Qinshu immediately said, where there's life, there's hope. The Burning Sun ruler decisively said, the fall of Imperial City is this ruler's greatest crime. I have let down the Nangong families like Ancestor and the countless southern summer heroes, so I can only fight to atone for my crimes. This ruler has already decided to lead the Nangong family's direct descendants to defend, and the Nangong family's branch families and youths under 20 will all be given to Nangong Yin to manage. From today on, Nangong Yin will be a new member of the Nangong family. I hope you will treat the Nangong family's descendants well and let the phoenix rise from the ashes. Because of the departing Flame Marquis betrayal, the Burning Sun ruler was filled with guilt, so he decided to stay behind to buy time for everyone. This was understandable, but why did the refined ruler stay behind? The Southern Summer Country did not have many true spirit realm experts. The Southern Summer Country's intelligence network is managed by the Shangwan family. The situation on the Warhounds' plains changed, and the Warhounds' army suddenly attacked. But this ruler did not notice it at all, causing the Southern Summer Country to fall into disaster. The root of the problem lies with the Shangwan family. The refined ruler said with a serious expression, this ruler has led the Shangwan family for several decades, but I have only been obsessed with power and profit. I have forgotten the teachings of my ancestors and abandoned my duty. This ruler is incompetent. The Shangwan family's foundation is an imperial city, so how could they be fine with their nest being destroyed? The Shangwan family is guilty, so we will fight to the last moment. These two people made Chu Tian suddenly understand something. The commercial ruler had said that the Burning Sun ruler and the refined ruler were different from the other families he had met. Chu Tian did not understand at that time, but now he knew what he was referring to. From these two noble monarchs, Chu Tian saw something that normal families did not have: honor and dignity. As rulers of the Southern Summer Country, even if they knew they would die, they would still fight to the last moment. Chu Tian, a low and deep voice came into his ears. The Western Marquis was holding a pen dripping with blood as he looked at him. To be honest, I still hate you to the bone, but it's a pity that I won't have a chance to take revenge. If you're a Southern Summer man, then take up your responsibilities. Otherwise, even if I turn into an evil spirit in the underworld, I will not let you off. The sound of the outer walls of the royal palace collapsing came from them. The Burning Sun ruler shouted at everyone, retreat, otherwise it will be too late. The overall situation is important. The refined ruler also said, let's go. Chu Tian cupped his hands at the two of them. Today's disaster is not only a humiliation for everyone, it is also a humiliation for me, Chu Tian. Today, I, Chu Tian, swear that there will be a day when the Warhound's plains will be flattened. The Burning Sun ruler laughed. Your words are enough. The Warhound's kingdom's destruction is just around the corner. My king has given you the title of country-guarding ruler in this crisis. It is clear that he has high hopes for you. Now that the Southern Summer Country is facing a crisis, I hope that the ruler can withstand a collapsing Southern Summer Country in this critical moment. The refined ruler walked in front of Chu Tian. The grudges between you and the Shangwan family will be written off by this ruler. Please treat the Shangwan family's descendants well. Let's go. It will be too late if we don't leave now. Gu Qinqiu said to Dongfang Haoran. Quickly, open the secret passage. The youths and branches of the three great clans, the Griffin Knights, important scholars and geniuses, there were a total of over 20,000 people. They first went to the royal palace's treasury and moved the things that could be moved. As for the things that couldn't be moved, they burned them. Finally, under Dongfang Haoran's lead, they began to leave through the royal palace's secret passage. Hong dong dong. The royal palace's doors slowly opened. The burning sun ruler and the refined ruler looked at the southern summer imperial city covered in flames and the dense warhound's army. Their hearts were filled with emotions. They never would have thought that the bustling city from a few days ago would have this kind of earth-shattering change in just a few short nights. The southern summer country had rested for several decades, but it had been completely burned down by a single fire. The southern summer king was dead. The frontline Marshal Dongfang Haoran was dead, and now it was the burning sun ruler and the refined ruler. Old man Nangong, we are truly not willing to end things like this. That's right, we are not willing. But we are old, so we'll leave the future to the young. At least we can leave in a beautiful way. Our lives won't be in vain. Let's go. The two true spirit experts flew into the air at the same time, leading the experts of the three great clans and the last army to launch a fierce attack on the Warhound's army. Like a cornered beast, each person had the determination to die. The Warhound's army suffered a fierce attack, and the fierce battle lasted for half a day. In the early morning of the next day, the flames of battle gradually calmed down. The Fang King stood in the ruined royal palace, looking over the entire imperial city. From today onwards, this land would be completely conquered by him. Reporting to the Fang King, Dongfang Zhan, Shangwan Sangfeng, and Nangong Yan's corpses have already been buried in Imperial City. Good. Wang Tianlong anxiously charged in and said, We haven't found the corpses of Chu Tian's group. What are you nervous about? A Warhound's chief said in an uncaring voice, In this kind of battle, it is normal for the corpses to be destroyed. Impossible. Wang Tianlong had a premonition. He is most likely still alive. The Warhound's soldiers did not care. So what if he was alive? The southern summer imperial city had been captured and the elites had all been killed. What else could they do to turn things around? The Fang King thought about it and said, I'll give you the vulture group. Search for their whereabouts. There was no time. The path of retreat Meng Qingwu left was now in effect. At this time, at the Tsang State Ferry, the giant shark gang fleet she had arranged was already waiting. The younger generation of the three great clans and the important talents of Imperial City were currently boarding the ships in an orderly manner. Meng Qingwu looked at the hazy sky, and her heart was very heavy. She never thought that they would leave Imperial City in this way. Chapter 673. In Miracle Commerce's headquarters, Meng Yingying was sitting next to Chu Tian, rubbing her red eyes while Nangong Yun was comforting her. Chun Bingyu, Feng Kai Dai, Yun Yao, and the others all had pained expressions on their faces. There was a group of old men whispering to each other, but no one could hear what they were discussing. All they could see was that they were either frowning or sighing. The entire room was shrouded in a pessimistic atmosphere. Are you guys done or not? Have you seen anything after looking at him for so long? Nangong Yun had a fiery temper and couldn't help exploding. She anxiously scratched her head and shouted, You only know how to sigh. What are you sighing for? What's the situation right now? Can boss be saved or not? Just give us a quick answer. The Meng sisters' hearts were in their throats. This was what they wanted to know. Don't be excited. Don't be excited. Zhao Pu awkwardly coughed a few times. Forgive me for speaking bluntly. The chairman's situation is very bad. All of his organs are showing signs of failing. His meridians are broken and his spirit energy is weakening. Of course, this is not the main reason, because the chairman cultivates the starlight immortal body. His physique is very strong and his recovery rate is very high. Otherwise, if it was a normal person, they would have already died. The most troublesome part is that the chairman has overdrawn his life force. Meng Yingying nervously asked, "Lost life force? What does that mean?" Old Zhao's meaning is that the chairman might have forcefully used a forbidden technique with large side effects. This forbidden technique might have burned his life force as a price, so it caused a serious overdraft of his life force. To put it simply, if the chairman could live for 100 years before, then his current lifespan is probably less than 50 years, and his life force is still weakening. How could it be like this? Everyone revealed a look of horror. This side effect was too terrifying. Chu Tian was still so young. Wouldn't it be very bad if his life force was damaged so early? Meng Qingwu finally understood. Even though Chu Tian had a heaven-defying power, he rarely used it. The main reason was that once this power was used excessively, not only would it attract the attention of others, but would also be very risky for him. Meng Yingying was at a loss. Then what should we do? If the damage is in the early stages, there is hope to restore it. But if it takes too long and causes the lost life force to solidify, then it will be harder than ascending to heaven to restore it. Meng Qingwu quickly asked, "Just tell us what materials we need. It doesn't matter how much it costs." "Vice Chairman, this isn't a problem of money. It's just that with the resources of the southern summer country, we can't find this level of medicine. We can't find it in the entire southern summer country." The old men looked at each other and said with a sigh, "This kind of heaven-mending medicine, it has to be an immortal-grade medicine." The faces of the girls instantly turned pale. Immortal medicine? Where could they find an immortal medicine in the southern summer country? The southern summer country was a small country and the spiritual energy was very poor, so there weren't many sacred medicines. Most of the sacred medicines were imported from other countries or dug up from ancient ruins. So how could they find an immortal medicine? Perhaps they could only go to a large kingdom or an empire to buy it. But immortal medicines were very expensive. Miracle Commerce's several billion gold coins reserves sounded like a lot in the southern summer country. But what did it count for in a place like that? Even if Miracle Commerce had enough money, they couldn't buy it even if they wanted to. Chu Tian's condition couldn't be dragged on, otherwise the sequelae would be permanent. At that time, even if they obtained the immortal medicine, they wouldn't be able to save him. Meng Yingying said in a somewhat choked voice, "Elder sister, what do we do? Don't be afraid. No matter what price we have to pay, we will definitely save Chu Tian." Meng Qingwu tightly clenched her fists. Actually, no one knew that the one feeling the most guilty right now was her. Chu Tian being injured like this was mostly because of her, so she had to save him no matter what. If the southern summer country doesn't have a medicine, then we'll look elsewhere. I believe we can find it. Meng Qingwu asked the old man. Then when will Chu Tian wake up? That's hard to say. Zhao Pu stroked his beard. Not only is the chairman's body injured, his mind is also exhausted. I'm afraid he'll need to sleep for 2-3 days. I suggest the chairman rest well. That way he can recover from the damage to his mind. They can only do this. Vice Chairman. At this time, a Miracle Commerce employee ran in a panic. The Burning Sun ruler, the refined ruler, and the great scholar are here. They want to see the chairman. The Burning Sun ruler and the refined ruler were here. Yingying, take care of Chu Tian. I'll go out and take a look. Meng Qingwu brought several people out. The Burning Sun ruler was wearing a thick scarlet armor, and the refined ruler was wearing a golden silk armor. There were several dozen important people behind them, including the great scholar Gu Qianxiu. The refined ruler asked, "Where's Chu Tian? Have him come out." "What do you mean?" Meng Qingwu was a bit afraid of the refined ruler. The Shangwan family did not have a good relationship with Miracle Commerce, so it was hard to say what the Shangwan family would do in this special time. The matter on the front lines was an accident. As for the Southern Summer King's death, even Chu Tian could not do anything about it. Could it be that you want to come and punish him? It's a misunderstanding. The refined ruler, can you put away your stinky face? The Burning Sun ruler glared at the refined ruler. Meng Qingwu said, "Now that the country is in trouble, how could the southern summer country destroy its own walls? We already know what happened, and Chu Tian did his best. No matter who is to blame for the front lines, it cannot be Chu Tian. Not to mention that Chu Tian has already been bestowed the title of country guarding ruler by our king. So his ruler rank is above us too. Then you are vice chairman. The southern summer country is in a life and death situation. Gu Qinxiu also stood up to speak at this time. After thinking about it, perhaps only Chu Tian has the means to turn the tide. So we want to see him and ask for a way to save the country. So it's like this. Meng Qingwu's heart sank. The refined ruler and the burning sun ruler had lowered themselves to find Chu Tian. Clearly, they were treating him as their last hope. This meant that the situation had become very bad. Chu Tian fought with the Warhound's true spirit experts on his way back and is currently in a coma. I'm afraid he won't wake up for now. Damn, the burning sun ruler angrily said. How could it be like this? Gu Qinxiu's expression also changed. The Warhound's army is already moving out. What should we do? Meng Qingwu was shocked. What? They're coming this quickly? The battle on the front lines is very fierce. Don't they need to adjust? The refined ruler said, with a dark expression. After the Warhounds reached the southern summer country's border, not only did their strength not weaken, they have also added large amounts of siege troops from the Warhounds' plains. They will reach Imperial City in 3 days, and the Imperial City's defenses cannot stop the Fong King's personally led army. What should they do? The various marquises are quickly returning to Imperial City, but there is no time to move the troops north. The burning sun ruler tightly clenched his fist. There's no other way. Even if we have to risk our lives, we can only fight them. The chances of winning this battle were very slim. The southern summer country had 400,000 soldiers, and they also had the burning sun ruler and the refined ruler, 2 true spirit realm experts. Adding in the various marquises, their battle strength was guaranteed. But in a normal clash of strength, the southern summer country would lose without a doubt. So they came to ask Chu Tian for help, hoping that Chu Tian would have 1 or 2 strange moves for the southern summer country. Meng Qingwu never thought it would be this coincidental. Chu Tian would not wake up in a short period of time. Other than him, who else had the ability to save the southern summer country? If the country fell, not only would miracle commerce lose their footing, if they lost miracle commerce, what would they use to exchange for the immortal medicine? The Warhounds' tribe's attack would arrive in an instant. They could not escape this calamity, but how should they deal with it? If it was Chu Tian, what would he do? Chu Tian could always think of a way to turn the tide. There was nothing that could stop him. The reason why they were in such a sorry state at the frontline fortress was purely because Chu Tian did not know the situation and lacked information. Otherwise, with Chu Tian's style and ability, even the powerful Warhound's kingdom would not have made him suffer such a large loss. Meng Qingwu felt a wave of powerlessness. Without Chu Tian, she was just an outstanding merchant. She could not do anything big at all. Wait a minute. I got it. Imperial City might not have no chance of winning. The secret weapon factory the calm martial ruler built outside the city. There were at least 10,000 source energy weapons. If these source energy weapons were taken out to equip the soldiers, it would increase the defensive power of the defending army by a large amount. Meng Qingwu immediately told this idea to the burning sun ruler and the refined ruler. The two of them were very shocked. Imperial City actually had this many source energy weapons? Even the two of them did not know about this matter. The Southern Summer King had truly hidden it too well. Gu Qinxiu also said if there were enough source energy weapons, this battle might not be impossible. Only the Imperial City's source energy factory has only been built for a short period of time, so at most there are 10,000 source energy weapons. Although they can be used in battle, it will be hard to turn the tide. Just the source energy weapons aren't enough. Do we need to prepare something else? What is it? Wait a minute. Meng Qingwu returned to her room and took out a communication device, immediately contacting the Central State Yin sect. Vice Chairman, is that you? Yin Tiana's voice came from the communication device. I heard that something big has happened in the Imperial region. The Divine Wind Marquis left Central State 2 nights ago. What is the situation over there? Time is pressing. It's not the time to talk about this. Meng Qingwu did not want to explain in detail. Has the Yun sect made any progress on the source energy bomb? It's done, but it hasn't reached the chairman's requirements yet. Meng Qingwu felt a glimmer of hope. Use the image transferring mirror to send the relevant technology over. This technology is related to the fate of Imperial City. You have to be fast. All right. Yin Tianhe understood Imperial City's current situation. I'll immediately send it over. Wait, I haven't finished. What else do you have to say? Immediately contact the giant shark gang's boss you and have the fleet head north to Tsang State. If something happens to Imperial City, they can help us retreat to the south. Even if the worst happens and we can't escape Imperial City, they can at least help the calm martial ruler and protect the last elite army of the southern summer country. Yin Tianhe was very shocked. Could the situation in Imperial City have worsened to this degree? Meng Qingwu was not as impulsive as Chu Tian. She was very cautious in everything she did, so she had prepared an escape route ahead of time. If Imperial City couldn't be defended, Miracle Commerce's only chance of survival would be on the water route. The warhounds lived on the prairies and were mainly ground cavalry. If they could retreat to the water route, it would not be easy for them to chase them. That's right, there's one more thing. Meng Qingwu would not forget the most important thing. Activate all of Miracle Commerce's radio stations and send a message to the entire country. What do you need? Yin Tianhe calmed himself down. I asked Vice Chairman to tell me. We need a level 2 immortal herb. A level 2 immortal herb that can recover innate vitality. What? An immortal herb? How can we buy this thing in the southern summer country? Even if Miracle Commerce has it, what can we use to buy it? I know it is very difficult, but it is related to Chu Tian's life and death. Even if there is a trace of hope, we still have to try. Could it be that the chairman? Yin Tianhe's voice was a bit trembling before he said in a hoarse voice, Relax, this old man will do his best. Miracle Commerce's life and death is in your hands. Chapter 674. On the day of Imperial City's fall, there was a sudden storm. This bad weather made it harder to chase after them, but it was heaven's blessing for the southern summer country. The giant shark gang's warship passed through Tsang State and smoothly entered the Four States Lake. After arriving at the Four States Lake, they no longer had to worry about the warhounds pursuing them. Cuckoo! Chu Tian was wearing a coat as he sat on the warship. There was an electric lamp in front of him as he drew one blueprint after another. His body had clearly not recovered, and there was no blood on his face, looking very weak. Chu Tian understood his injuries better than anyone else. To kill the true spirit realm expert Malum, he had paid a large price, but it didn't matter. As long as he didn't die, Chu Tian had many methods to save him. Meng Yingying pushed open the door and came in, holding 2 cans of hot food. Your injuries haven't healed. I think you should rest early. You want to beat Master Chu Tian with these injuries? How could it be that easy? Chu Tian gave a laugh, looking like he was very relaxed. He looked out the window at the pitch-black lake and had a ruffian look on his face. Father has never been chased by anyone before, and I was actually chased away by these lowly spirit beasts. What kind of bullshit Fong King is this? Just wait and see. I'll take this back no matter what. This was the Chu Tian Yingying knew. When Meng Yingying saw Chu Tian like this, if it wasn't for Zhao Pu, Gu Qianxiu, and the others reminding her, she would have thought that Chu Tian had recovered. This fellow was clearly half dead, but he was still thinking about taking revenge. She really didn't know what to do. Save it, save it. Meng Yingying gave a can of food to Chu Tian and snappily said, I think you should properly heal yourself and think of a way to protect your little life and Miracle Commerce before you think about taking revenge. Chu Tian was very confident in Miracle Commerce, but any genius or great existence would easily die before they fully matured. The continent was chaotic and turbulent, so it was not easy to survive in this chaotic world. But it was because of this that Chu Tian wanted to create Miracle Commerce. Miracle Commerce could not only provide Chu Tian with large amounts of resources, it could also protect Chu Tian and the people around him as he grew stronger. Miracle Commerce had developed smoothly until now, but they had suffered an unprecedented setback when they were expanding to the north of Imperial City. This could only mean that miracle commerce was not strong enough. However, Chu Tian secretly swore that he would not let something like this happen again. After the Imperial City battle, the southern summer country had been mostly destroyed. Their territory had shrunk by a quarter, and their elites had suffered heavy losses. The armies of the 6 southern states, added together, could not compare to an imperial region. So, after the warhounds conquered the north, they would continue to invade the southern summer country. The crisis had not been resolved, and the situation was still very serious. But Meng Yingying still had confidence in Chu Tian. In fact, Meng Yingying was the one who blindly believed in Chu Tian out of everyone. The attack on the front lines was too sudden, and Chu Tian did not have time to react. When Imperial City was attacked, Chu Tian was unconscious, so he had no choice but to run away. The situation was different now. Central State was miracle commerce's birthplace, and Chu Tian had enough time to prepare. This time, the warhounds were not facing the southern summer country, but rather miracle commerce led by Chu Tian. The giant shark gang's fleet arrived at the Central State port. Everyone disembarked. In just a few months, Central State had undergone earth-shattering changes. There were several industrial parks on the outskirts of the city, and over 1,000 large ships were docked at the port. There were countless large airships flying in the sky. This bustling scene was not inferior to Imperial City at all. The tense situation in the north did not seem to have spread here. Central State City was still rich and busy. The Meng sisters, Nan Gongyun and Chun Bingyu all sighed. They never thought that they would come back this quickly. But there was no time to reminisce. The warhounds would first attack Central State. Once Central State fell, not only would the southern summer country have no hope, miracle commerce would also be uprooted. Chu Tian would not allow this to happen. He came to the Central State Yun sect and gathered everyone. If my guesses aren't wrong, in 10 days or half a month, the warhound will attack Central State through the waterways. The high-level members of Imperial City and Central State were all gathered together, listening to Chu Tian with serious expressions. There were several thousand miles of mountain ranges in the north of Central State, and it would not be easy for the warhounds to cross them. The best way was to steal the southern summer warships and attack Central State City through the waterways. The warhounds have lived in the warhound plains for generations, so fighting on water is not their specialty. We have enough advantages, but this advantage is not enough because the warhounds will receive the support of the Eagle Burial Kingdom's Air Force, using the Air Force to cover the water force. If it's like this, we will be at a complete disadvantage with our lacking Air Force. Chu Tian ordered, I announce that from now on, the entire state will be under military control. All resources will be used for war preparations. In the following battle, not only do we need to win a beautiful victory. Everyone was filled with worry. Did they really have a chance of winning? The Imperial region had over 100 soldiers, gathering half of the southern summer country's army. In terms of battle strength, they had gathered around 80% of the southern summer country's strength. There was also the front line that the southern summer country had spent several generations to build, but even with such a strong defense, it still fell in a week. The difference in strength between the warhounds and the southern summer country was too large. Even if the southern states could rely on the mountains and rivers to defend in front of an absolute power, what use would a defensive line have? Relax. Once the warhounds come to Central State, I will make it so they won't be able to return. Chu Tian had half a month to prepare. Although it seemed very rushed, it was actually more than enough. We will use the full strength of a Yun Sect's laboratory and the foundation that Miracle Commerce has built in Central State for half a year to create several new weapons for Central State. The scholars whispered to each other, revealing expressions of interest. Yun Tiana asked in a curious voice, what weapon does the chairman want to invent? Chu Tian first revealed a blueprint. When the Yun Sect scholars saw this blueprint, they all felt it was very familiar because this blueprint was very similar to the source energy bombs they had made before. Only Chu Tian had made a large number of modifications, making the source energy bombs look very complete. That's right, this is the source energy bomb. I've modified and improved the Yun-Sex bombs, making it more controllable and safer. Other than that, I've developed several crude oil refining techniques that will allow us to make even more powerful and destructive heavy explosives. Everyone's hearts were filled with excitement. The Imperial City battle was too rushed, and Miracle Commerce hadn't been an Imperial City for long, so their infrastructure and industrial facilities were not complete. Although Meng Qingwu wanted to use the source energy bombs, she didn't have the ability to make more. Even so, they were quite useful in the beginning and left a deep impression on everyone. Now the situation was different. Central State was the birthplace of Miracle Commerce. Miracle Commerce had been developing in Central State for half a year, and now they had a basic industrial scale. Whether it was resources or production, they couldn't compare to Imperial City at all. Chu Tian revealed several blueprints that he had thought of on the way back to the warship. This is a single soldier source energy bomb, made from compressed crude oil. Its specialty is that it can be carried around and used by a single soldier. It doesn't have a wide range, but it has a large destructive power. I named it the Source Energy Grenade. The Source Energy Grenade was very simple to make, and it didn't have a large area of effect. It was mainly used by soldiers on the battlefield and was used to kill enemies from short distance. As long as a Source Energy Grenade hit an enemy, even a true Soul Realm expert would be heavily injured or even killed. Other than that, using a simple catapult to launch the bomb cannot guarantee its safety, and the efficiency and accuracy are too low. Chu Tian revealed another design idea. We need to make a more accurate source energy bomb launcher. Not only will it have an automatic firing process, it will also have a more accurate guidance. Different launchers can fire different bombs, so we can achieve a stronger killing effect. Chu Tian listed several other plans. Combining the source energy bomb with a crossbow, turning the bomb into an arrow to fire, or making a floating mine in the water. Everyone was filled with amazement. Genius, what was called a genius? Chu Tian's plans were all given to the Yun-Sex design department. As for how much they could complete, it all depended on luck. Chu Tian was only responsible for improving the bomb design. As for whether it could be used in a weapon, that would depend on Miracle Commerce's current research ability. As for the source energy bomb, I've finished introducing it. Chu Tian then changed the topic. The source energy bomb's destructive power is very strong. But with our current technology, the source energy bomb we can make can only threaten awakened Soul Realm cultivators. It is a limited threat to true Spirit Realm cultivators. Other than that, the range and other aspects are lacking, so we need to design a stronger and more powerful weapon to deal with true Spirit Realm cultivators. Actually, the effect of the source energy bomb was already very shocking. With Central State's current resources and production capacity, it was enough to produce large amounts of bombs before the Warhound's army moved south. This could change the battle situation. Could it be that Chu Tian had an even more powerful weapon? Chu Tian took out a giant blueprint, and everyone was stunned. This blueprint looked like a source energy pistol, but it was much larger. Just the barrel was over 4 meters long, and the structure was incomparably complex. There were at least 4 magazines designed to supply energy. It looked just like an enlarged source energy pistol. There was a source energy array inside. Whether it was the complexity or the level, it was not something current source energy firearms could compare to. Everyone looked carefully. This is the new weapon that Miracle Commerce will be developing. Chu Tian pointed at the blueprint and introduced it. As you can see, this weapon is several dozen times larger than the source energy firearms. I'll name it the Source Energy Cannon. The might of a source energy cannon is around 200 times that of a source energy pistol. 200 times the power? What kind of concept was that? Even with the protective spirit energy of a true spirit expert, it would be hard for them to take a few shots without being injured. This time, it wasn't just the Yun-Sex scholars. Even a layman who didn't understand were shocked. Once this weapon appeared, it would be a super terrifying killing weapon. A single shot would be able to pierce through the enemy's battleship, and even a true spirit expert would find it hard to block this kind of attack. Chapter 675. Meng Qingwu gave the source energy bomb blueprints from Central State to Gu Qinxiu. With this kind of strong destructive power weapon, perhaps it would be able to deal a heavy blow to the war hounds, allowing them to turn the situation around. For now, we can only do this. Use the source energy guns. Make the source energy bombs. The source energy weapons had always been top secret, and the Burning Sun ruler and the refined ruler knew very little about them. Of course, with their statuses, it was impossible for them to completely hide it. At the very least, the two of them had investigated Chu Tian and knew that Chu Tian had a weapon factory in Central State. They just didn't know the specifics of the source energy weapons. Now that the Southern Summer King was dead and the calm martial ruler couldn't return, the Southern Summer Country was in danger of being destroyed. All the resources and strength they had to be used at this time. So with Gu Qinxiu's strong support, the two rulers decided to bypass the king's ban and forcefully open the source energy weapon factory. Meng Qingwu personally checked the source energy weapon factory's inventory. There were around 14,000 source energy pistols, 2,000 source energy submachine guns, 50,000 magazines for the pistols, and 10,000 magazines for the source energy submachine guns. The energy magazines were all shipped from Central State and were not made in the Imperial region, so there weren't many of them. It was already too late to ship them. These magazines should be able to last for a while. The source energy pistols could kill early awakened soul cultivators or low-level 2 demon beasts, but they were slow and their range couldn't compare to bows and arrows, so they could only be used in close combat. The refined ruler suggested, there aren't many source energy weapons, so it's impossible to fully equip them. We can only use them to deal with them. From the information from the front lines, the Warhound's trump card army is a wolf cavalry army. The demonic wolves are very agile and have very fast reactions, so it is hard to injure them with a rain of arrows. This source energy weapon is suitable to restrain them in close combat. The Burning Sun ruler suggested, the Nangong family's Wild Flame army is one of the best heavy armored infantry in the Southern Summer Country. They are stronger than the Southern State barbarians and can block the charge of the demonic wolf cavalry. If they are equipped with source energy pistols, they can form a strong resistance. That's reasonable. The two rulers decided to equip the 10,000 source energy pistols with a Wild Flame heavy infantry and another 500 submachine guns to increase their firepower. This infantry was personally commanded by the Burning Sun ruler, so they had strong close combat abilities. Now that they had these weapons, naturally they could increase their strength by a large amount. Gu Qinxiu suggested, now that there are 2,000 source energy submachine guns left, this old man recommends equipping them with the Royal Griffin Knights. The Griffin Knights are the strongest army in Imperial City and the Southern Summer Country, so they have the advantage of suppressing enemies in the air. If they have the support of the powerful submachine guns, they will become a nightmare for the warhounds. There were 2,000 Griffin Knights left. This army was already very strong, and now, with the powerful suppressive firepower, their strength had increased by several times. It was enough for them to suppress the enemy from the air in a critical moment. No wonder I'm filled with confidence and prepared to start the northern expedition. The Burning Sun ruler was filled with excitement. My Southern Summer Country has these powerful weapons. We indeed have the ability to flatten the Warhound's plains. It's a pity. He never would have thought that the Warhounds would be a step faster. In the end, he would die a tragic death before his ambitions could be fulfilled. Could it really be the will of the heavens? If the Warhounds had attacked a month later, the first batch of source energy weapons would have been sent to the army. When the Southern Summer Country had over 100,000 source energy weapons, would it be easy for the Warhounds to break through the front lines? There were no assumptions in this world. Meng Qingwu was still not optimistic. She had seen the battle strength of the Warhounds' army, and these 10,000 source energy weapons could increase the Southern Summer Country's battle strength. But the increase was limited. It was impossible for them to resist the several 100,000 Warhounds' army. Just relying on the source energy weapons was far from enough. Meng Qingwu ordered the source energy batteries stored in Imperial City to be taken out for an emergency upgrade. Gu Qinxiu gathered several thousand scholars to participate. All kinds of source energy batteries were turned into simple source energy bombs, allowing everyone to mass-produce source energy bombs. The Burning Sun ruler and the Refined ruler were also urgently deploying troops and preparing talismans. They prepared talismans, medicines, arrows, war machines, and etc. The several million people in Imperial City were mobilized. When a nest is overturned, there are no intact eggs. No matter what kind of conflicts the families had, they were all united to fight against the enemy at this moment. Large amounts of source energy bombs were made before long. These bombs are very unstable, so you have to be very careful when using them. Otherwise, you might injure yourself, and it might lead to an unimaginable danger. Meng Qingwu directed the scholars to prepare the bombs. Our bombs are very limited, so we have to make sure we can use them on a battlefield. It's best if we can give them a surprise attack. While Meng Qingwu was busy preparing, a piece of good news came. Other than Tsang State's Blue Cloud Marquis, the other 7 Southern Summer Marquises had gathered in Imperial City, including the Divine Wind Marquis, the Golden Arrow Marquis, the Western Marquis, and the others. These Marquises had come in a hurry, only bringing their personal guards. There were only around 3,000 people, but these 3,000 people were all very strong. After Meng Qingwu learned of the situation, she immediately went to the royal palace to see them. When the Western Marquis saw Meng Qingwu appear, his face turned dark and filled with shame. He would never forget the humiliation Miracle Commerce had given him in his life. Although he did not see Chu Tian, seeing Meng Qingwu was enough to make his teeth itch. Meng Qingwu was most worried about the internal problems in Imperial City. Why did the front lines collapse? A large part of the reason was because of Wang Tianlong's betrayal. So Dongfang Zhan had to personally suppress it. Because the frontline marshal had left the command post, he could not respond to the situation at the back, and it sped up the collapse of the front lines. Qingwu greets the Western Marquis. Meng Qingwu also nodded. Chu Tian has offended the Western Marquis, so after this matter is over, Qingwu will personally come to apologize. But with the enemy in front of us, I ask the Western Marquis to cooperate. Shang Wanhong, you are still a second-class Marquis that the Southern Summer King gave you. The Refined ruler reprimanded him with a look of dissatisfaction. With the country in danger, personal grudges are not worth mentioning. This ruler does not want the Shangwan family to bear the crime of destroying the country. The Burning Sun ruler also said, Chu Tian has already become the country-guarding ruler and is the leader of the rulers, so it is not shameful for you to suffer this loss. Now that the war hounds are in front of us, we must cooperate. Yes. When the Western Marquis saw the 2 rulers come out to speak, he did not dare act up. He immediately cupped his hands and said, Shang Wanhong will face the danger with my own body, even if I die 10,000 times. Meng Qingwu was relieved seeing this. She looked at the Divine Wind Marquis and the Golden Arrow Marquis. You guys came as quickly? The Divine Wind Marquis nodded. My king sent out a royal proclamation not long ago, requesting the southern states to make preparations as well as a plan to move troops north. We were already prepared to come to Imperial City at any time. So when we learned of the changes in Imperial City, we immediately rushed over. It's a pity. The Golden Arrow Marquis said with a sigh, We rushed over, but we couldn't bring the army with us. There was no other way. Although the armies of the various states had not arrived yet, the Marquises were all peak experts of the Southern Summer Country, and they were all experienced generals, so they could handle this task by themselves. With the help of these people in Imperial City, their chances of winning this battle would increase by quite a bit. The Divine Wind Marquis voice was a bit hoarse. I heard that the old marshal, Meng Qingwu, gave a heavy nod. At this time, the Marquises all had calm expressions. Whether it was the Divine Wind Marquis, the Golden Arrow Marquis, the Western Marquis, or the other Marquises, as long as they were in front of Dongfang Zhan, they would all respectfully call him the Marshal. This was because they had more or less worked under Dongfang Zhan before, so they all admired Dongfang Zhan's character. The pillar of the country had collapsed. How could they not sigh in regret? What is the current situation? The Greenwood Marquis said, How should we fight? Meng Qingwu had already done her best. The source energy guns and the source energy bombs, These two things could greatly increase the chances of Imperial City's defense. However, Meng Qingwu could not predict the final outcome of Imperial City. She could only leave it to fate. Meng Qingwu was a merchant, so she did not have any experience in analyzing the battlefield. She only knew that the Warhound's army was very strong, so how they would defend would depend on these people. The Calm Martial ruler was not here, and the Burning Sun ruler had the highest rank in the army, so he was in charge of the defense. From now on, the entire city will be under military control, and all food will be distributed. The citizens of the city will not be allowed to leave, and the mercenaries will be used for battle. The Greenwood Marquis, Divine Wind Marquis, you will be in charge of the southern defense. The Golden Arrow Marquis, Western Peace Marquis, you will be in charge of the eastern side. The Western Marquis, Far East Marquis, I'll leave the western side to you. The Refined Ruler, and I will be in charge of the northern side. The military deployment will be as follows. The Southern Summer Imperial City was nervously deploying, and the Warhounds were quickly reorganizing themselves, increasing their pace. This was because the Fong King was very clear in his heart that his time was limited. The Calm Martial ruler's 200,000 cavalry and the Marquis of Green Cloud's 200,000 cavalry. Once they left the Tsang State Plains, once these 400,000 highly mobile troops returned to the Imperial region, the Warhounds would fall into a difficult situation. This was a battle of speed. The Fong King had to capture Imperial City before the Calm Martial ruler returned. Once they captured Imperial City, the Southern Summer Country would not have the strength to reverse the situation. Finally, the Warhounds' army appeared to the north of the Southern Summer Imperial City. The vast Warhounds' army far surpassed their imaginations, and the Imperial City garrison couldn't help swallowing a mouthful of saliva. The flags were like waves in the sea, and there were at least 800,000 of them, which was no different from when they attacked the front lines. This was strange. It was impossible for an army to increase in numbers as they fought. The Warhounds had broken through the front lines and won, but they had lost at least 200,000 people. Why were there still this many soldiers in front of them? The Burning Sun ruler and the Refined ruler found the problem because they recognized many old enemies among the Warhounds' army's flags. From the information they had received, these old Warhounds tribes did not participate in the battle. It was clear that the Warhounds had not completely submitted to the Fong King. There were some old Warhounds tribes that did not participate in the battle. This was the bet the Fong King made with them. As long as they broke through the Southern Summer front lines, these old tribes would submit. If the Fong King was defeated, these old tribes would leave the Fong King, and in the end, the Fong King would be the only survivor. These old tribes had seen the Fong King's strength, so they had no choice but to accept it. The Fong King's army had gained another precious air force. From the looks of it, there were about 20,000 people, all of them riding on vulture beasts. This was a large vulture knight regiment, obviously to fight against the Griffin Knights stationed in King City. This was too hard to believe. A vulture air force and a demon wolf cavalry army. The mounts, soldiers, and equipment of these two armies were all the same. This was clearly something that could only be created by a power with strong breeding and manufacturing abilities. The Warhounds' breeding abilities were not bad, but they couldn't create this many uniform, high-quality mounts. Moreover, the Warhounds' equipment manufacturing skills were very simple. So how could they create this kind of army? The Fong King rode the three-headed demon wolf, walking alone in the direction of Imperial City. You are the newly promoted Fong King. The Burning Sun ruler felt a wave of pressure from the Fong King. This person's cultivation was higher than his by quite a bit. Even the Calm Martial ruler could not compare. So, it's a nameless person. Behind the Fong King was a group of Warhounds kingdom experts, including 3-4 true spirit experts who were all tribe chiefs. Other than that, there was also the Southern Summer rebel Wang Tianlong. The Fong King had sent out his full strength in this battle, preparing to capture the Southern Summer Imperial City in one battle. The difference in strength between the two sides was too large, and the Southern Summer country was about to be captured, but the Fong King was not excited at all. Rather, he said with a dark expression, Malum was killed by the two of you." "Who was Malum?" "The Burning Sun ruler and the Refined ruler were both stunned." "I killed him." A sweet girl's voice sounded from the city walls. Meng Qingwu was not wearing her usual white robe. Rather, she was wearing a silver white armor. She was fully armed like a valiant general. Gu Qianxiu was shocked. Chairman Meng actually killed that person. The Burning Sun ruler asked in a strange voice. "What? Could it be that person's background is very big?" "Of course." Gu Qianxiu angrily said. "Malum is the Hell Song tribe's vice chief and a true spirit cultivator who worked with the rebel Wang Tianlong to kill my king." "True spirit cultivator?" Everyone was shocked. Meng Qingwu was a weak girl, and she actually personally killed a warhound's true spirit cultivator? This news was too shocking. Just the merit from this head was enough for Meng Qingwu to become a marquis. After all, in all these years, the Southern Summer Country had never killed a warhound's true spirit expert. Even if a warhound's true spirit expert fell, it would be because of internal strife. The entire warhound's army was in an uproar. Chapter 676. The source energy cannon has 100 times the power of a source energy gun, but the energy consumption is also 100 times higher. Not only does it require a high-energy magazine, it also requires a high-quality material. With our current battery technology, weapon refining technology, and the materials we have on hand, I'm afraid it will be hard to meet the requirements. Chu Tian did not care about Yin Tian's question at all. "There's no need to worry. I've already thought of a method to refine high-strength crystal oil while I was in Imperial City. The Central State battery base and the military base barely meet the requirements. As for the materials, when we left Imperial City, we brought out several hundred-year-old metals that can withstand the energy of the source energy cannon." Chu Tian also proposed a heavy firearm plan. This kind of firearm was also made from a very expensive rare metal. Its specialty was that it could withstand high speeds for a long time, so it was suitable to be used to create a high-capacity, fast firing rate, and long-lasting firearm. Whether it was the source energy cannon or the heavy source energy gun, they were all weapons of mass destruction. The technology and material requirements were very high, so Chu Tian had to personally participate in the research to ensure that it could be produced before the warhounds attacked. The Yun sect already had a very strong research force. Now that the Imperial City Yun sect and the Central State Yun sect had merged, their strength naturally increased by several times. Several hundred top scholars worked day and night. Several dozen experiments were conducted at the same time, and several thousand people from the Yun sect participated. After many experiments and calculations, it only took a few days for the results to appear. Several dozen airships went back and forth between Central State and South Sky City, transporting large amounts of refined crystal oil from the oil fields. Miracle Commerce's 5 crystal oil warehouses in the main city were filled to the brim. After they had enough materials, the several factories began to operate at the same time. Over 10,000 workers and over 1,000 array masters began to work. Meng Qingwu personally went to the factories to inspect the situation. There were several hundred fist-sized things that had already been produced. They were round like fruits with runes and lines engraved on the surface. There was a high-density crystal oil inside, and there was a red button at the top. As long as this button was pressed, the source energy battery inside would activate the array, causing the crystal oil inside to explode. This was the source energy grenade. The structure was not complicated, and it was easy to produce because it was small. Each soldier could carry 1 or 2, and it would have a terrifying effect on the battlefield. Even if one was thrown onto an 8-9th awakened Solaire expert, they would be crippled if not dead. In the source energy weapon warehouse, there were a total of 50,000 source energy firearms, including over 5,000 source energy submachine guns. This was far more than the weapons in Imperial City. This batch of weapons was enough to make up for the lack of quality and strength in the Central State Army. Not bad. When Meng Qingwu saw the neatly arranged weapons, her heart filled with confidence. At this time, the Giant Shark Gang reported another piece of good news to Meng Qingwu. After the Warhound's Fong King captured Imperial City, He wanted to attack the calm martial ruler's army, but the calm martial ruler ambushed the 3 northern ports and took away all the warships. Even if he didn't take away the ships, the docks were all burned down. Now, the calm martial ruler is leading the remaining 300,000 Southern Summer Cavalry to meet us from the north. The Central State Army was small and weak, so the calm martial ruler had come at the right time. The calm martial ruler had the highest status of the 3 rulers. He was a person that could support half of the Southern Summer Country. Not to mention, he had brought a large group of elites to Central State. The calm martial ruler had not only taken all the ships, he had also burned down the ports. This was without a doubt delaying the war hound's attack, giving Chu Tian a chance in Central State. Immediately prepare to welcome them. Meng Qinwu brought Miracle Commerce's group to the Central State Port. First, they cleared out most of the port and docks. Then they built a temporary military camp. 2 days later, several hundred large warships appeared in front of them. The calm martial ruler had brought 280,000 elite cavalry to Central State this time. Most of them were the Storm Cavalry, which was one of the strongest main forces of the Southern Summer Country. The 400,000 cavalry of the Southern Summer Country was the most important battle force. Half of them were in Imperial City, and the other half were in Song State. If this army was not on duty when the battle began, it was unknown if the Fong King's army could capture Imperial City. Now that this army had come to Central State, it would be a great help to defend Central State. The fall of the Imperial region was a large blow to the calm martial ruler. But the calm martial ruler did not seem angry or flustered. Rather, he seemed very calm. As the commander-in-chief of the Southern Summer Army, he was very good at hiding his emotions. With the Southern Summer Country's disaster, the calm martial ruler clearly blamed himself. He did not see through the warhound's true intentions in invading Song State. When the warhound's army entered Song State, it looked like they were heading for Song State's main city, and they deliberately revealed their intentions to attack the farms. But these were all pretenses. The true goal was to drag the Southern Summer Country's Northern Cavalry Army into a quagmire, making them temporarily useless and allowing the Fong King to personally lead the army into the Southern Summer Country. This was not the calm martial ruler's fault. The Southern Summer Country's intelligence was clearly lagging behind. They did not know that the Warhound's planes had been unified, and they did not know that there was a Spirit Beast Kingdom supporting the Warhound's kingdom. The new Fong King was clearly an experienced general, having a deep understanding of the Southern Summer Army. In this situation where the intelligence was not equal, the calm martial ruler could not do anything. After all, he was not a prophet. The previous king has given his orders. Gu Qinxiu respectfully came forward and said, "We ask the calm martial ruler, Dong Fanggan, to inherit the Southern Summer King's throne." The surrounding soldiers all kneeled down. Whether it was the calm martial ruler's prestige, fame, or background, he was worthy of this position. Now that the Southern Summer Country was like a group of dragons without a head, they needed a leader to give orders. Who would have thought that the calm martial ruler would coldly say, "How can a general be the Southern Summer King? This ruler will not accept the throne. Letting Dongfang Howren inherit, it is the proper way." If this was said by someone else, people would think it was fake, but the calm martial ruler's character was known by the entire country. He was like another Dongfang Zhan. Although he had a high status, he had no interest in material comforts. When the previous generation's Southern Summer King was choosing between the two princes, he preferred the decisive Dongfang Gan. Who would have thought that when Dongfang Gan learned that his royal father wanted to pass the throne to him, he would lead his troops to fight the war hounds without a single word? Dongfang Gan's actions were telling the previous king that his ambitions were on the battlefield and not in the palace. The previous king could only helplessly pass the throne to Dongfang Hao. Dongfang Hao had great ambitions, but no talent, so he was not a virtuous king, but he was very tactful and shrewd. He had the heart of a king, so he had governed the Southern Summer Country quite well over the years. Now Dongfang Hao was dead. Was Dongfang Gan not willing to become the Southern Summer King? The great scholar said with a calm expression, "The prince is talented, but he is too young and lacks experience on the battlefield." Without any experience in governing, How can he take the throne? The southern summer country is in a special period. I ask the calm martial ruler to not decline. We ask the king to immediately ascend the throne. We ask the king to immediately ascend the throne. Everyone began to loudly shout out. Dongfang tightly knit his brows as he said, "If I become the king, who will go to war?" The southern summer king does not need a king, but rather a general that can sweep through the war hounds. The calm martial ruler's words are wrong. Meng Qingwu said, "The entire country's war is related to the fate of the country. With the king personally leading the army, it will raise the morale of the army. As long as we can pass this calamity, we won't need to worry about counterattacking in the future." Prince Dongfang Haoran is not even 30 years old and can already break through to the peak 9th awakened soul layer. It would be better for him to grow with the country guarding ruler, becoming a country protecting pillar that is not inferior to the calm martial ruler. On the other hand, if the prince ascends the throne early, not only will his strength not convince the people, it will also delay the prince's growth. How could the calm martial ruler bear this? The calm martial ruler will have two benefits if you ascend the throne, but the calm martial ruler will have two mistakes if you don't. Please reconsider. Gu Qianxiu praised Meng Qingwu. She really was worthy of being the beautiful and intelligent vice chairman of Miracle Commerce. These kind of reasonable words were much more useful than these people. The calm martial ruler gave a sigh and finally agreed. Under the escort of the army, Dongfang finally carried out the simple coronation ceremony in Central State. From now on, Central State City would be the imperial city. After Dongfang ascended the throne, he immediately issued several royal proclamations. First, Dongfang Haoran was given the title of calm martial ruler, inheriting the title left behind by the southern summer king Dongfang. Of course, it was only a name. Dongfang Haoran did not have much experience on the battlefield, and his strength was not strong enough, so he could not control the southern summer country's army. The current military power was still in Dongfang's hands. Second, the country guarding ruler Chu Tian was given the title of profound marquis, being a first-class marquis of the southern summer country. He had the qualifications to mobilize the regular armies of the 6 states and also manage the 6 marquises. The marquises of the various counties had to be led by the country guarding ruler. Third, Meng Qingwu killed the Hellsong tribe's vice chief Malum and was given the title of Marquis of the southern summer country. She was given the title of Cloud Dream Marquis, becoming the Marquis of Southern State. Of these 3 royal proclamations, 2 of them were royal proclamations for Miracle Commerce. Chu Tian added the title of Marquis on top of the ruler title, and it was a first-class Marquis with real power. This was something that had never happened before in the history of the southern summer country. Other than Chu Tian, Meng Qingwu was also given the title of Marquis, becoming the Southern State Army where the Western Marquis was stationed. This was the first female Marquis in the southern summer country in several hundred years. Regarding this, no one had any objections. The 3 great clans could not recover from the imperial city, and the other large clans had either escaped, died, or returned to the warhounds. So how could they care about this? Among the marquises of the southern summer country, other than the newly titled Cloud Dream Marquis, Meng Qingwu, the Greenwood Marquis, the Golden Arrow Marquis, and the Divine Wind Marquis were on Chu Tian's side. The great scholar Gu Qianxiu was also on Chu Tian's side. The new imperial city and central state were Chu Tian's territory. Therefore, from the Marquis to the citizens, no one objected to this, and they were all very excited. Chu Tian being placed in an important position by the southern summer country was a very good thing for the southern summer country. After Dongfang announced the royal proclamations, he wanted to go to the Yun sect to find Chu Tian. In the end, before he could even move, news came from the Yun sect. Chu Tian had been overworking himself these past few days, causing his old injuries to flare up. He could only rest in bed and could not continue working. This time, Miracle Commerce and the southern summer country were all in a panic. They had finally waited for the calm, martial ruler to inherit the throne. In the end, something had happened to Chu Tian. What should they do? In the hearts of the Central State people, Chu Tian's position was not inferior to the calm martial rulers. As long as Chu Tian was here, nothing was impossible, but once Chu Tian fell, how could they not have confidence in their hearts? What should they do? Find a medicine. They had to find a medicine. Meng Qingwu decided to use all of Miracle Commerce's channels and buy an immortal herb at any cost. In just a short night, the news of Miracle Commerce buying an immortal herb to save Chu Tian was spread across the entire kingdom. However, once the news was released, it disappeared like a clay ox entering the sea. Chapter 677. The Nether Flame Blade Malum, the Hellsong tribe's vice chief, had actually died to a weak awakened soul realm girl. This news was just too explosive. The various warhounds tribes were all discussing this. "You're insulting my tribe's warriors." The Fong King angrily roared. "How could you kill him? Don't tell me you don't recognize the storage bag." Meng Qingwu did not waste words as she took out a storage bag from the Fong King. As she took out a long black blade from the storage bag. The long blade was wrapped in cloth. Because this blade was a top-grade soul contracting weapon, Meng Qingwu could not gain its approval, so she could not use it. "Even if you don't recognize this storage bag, I think you're not unfamiliar with this blade." Nether Flame Blade? Malum really died to her hands. Several Warhounds Plains tribe leaders were whispering to each other, with strange expressions on their faces. No one sympathized with Malum's death. Rather, most of them revealed looks of disdain. The Fong King was unable to restrain his anger. Malum was his little brother, and was the Fong King's most trusted and capable subordinate. If Malum was killed by a strong enemy, it would be a fitting ending for a brave warrior. But Malum had actually died to this weak girl's hands. This was not just an insult to Malum, it was also an insult to their Hellsong tribe. The purple-gold thunder god drum was suddenly raised. Thunder. The Fong King exploded with a roar as he released a bolt of lightning that exploded in the sky. It pierced through the clouds and shot at Meng Qingwu on the city wall. She could still release such a strong attack from this far away. The Fong King's strength was truly terrifying, which shocked the southern summer soldiers. The refined ruler gave a cold laugh and a golden pen came out of his sleeve. He drew a circle in the air and the lightning was instantly locked in. With a wave of the golden pen, the energy was sent back, shooting at the Fong King like a beam of light. The Fong King used the golden drum to block it, but it was completely absorbed. The Fong King softly asked, "You are the southern summer refined ruler? Is this ruler? The chaos of the warhounds for many years was all caused by you in secret. The southern summer country being able to live until today is all thanks to you. It's a pity that your recent movements were not grasped by this ruler. Otherwise, how could you have fallen to this state? This ruler is clear on the Warhound's plain situation. It is impossible for them to launch this kind of attack. You are not some unknown person. So where did you come from?" The Burning Sun ruler coldly said. "Why are you wasting words with him? Since these Warhounds bastards have come, we'll let them see the southern summer country's strength. Burning Sun ruler, refined ruler, I suggest you surrender." The Fong King did not say anything before Wang Tianlong slowly walked out. "Could it be that you still naively think that the southern summer country is only facing the Warhound's kingdom? Wrong. Completely wrong. You don't know what happened at all. You can't win this battle." The southern summer people had already suspected the Fong King's origin. This was because the Hellsong tribe was a new tribe that had appeared in the Warhounds Plains in the last 10 years. So they were fundamentally different from the other Warhounds tribes. A tribe that was established in such a short period of time, it was impossible for them to establish a mature and complete army. 100,000 demon wolf cavalry and 20,000 vulture cavalry. Where did they come from? There was only one possibility. The Hellsong tribe was just a representative, and they represented a foreign power. So Wang Tianlong was this confident. The Hellsong tribe is a noble of the Eagle Burial Kingdom. Wang Tianlong loudly shouted, "The Warhounds Kingdom has already become one of the Eagle Burial Warring Kingdoms, and the Warhounds are in the Eagle Burial Kingdom's sphere of influence." Do you think you have the ability to fight against a warring kingdom? Everyone's expressions changed. Eagle Burial Kingdom? Although this country did not have any contact with the Southern Summer Country, there were some people who had heard of it. This was also a kingdom, but it had already developed to the level of a warring kingdom. It had to be known that for a kingdom to become a warring kingdom, it first had to have a stable and mature national strength. It also needed to have a military strength that surpassed the surrounding areas, showing a tendency to expand to become a warring kingdom. A warring kingdom was also a kingdom, and its strength far surpassed a normal kingdom, even surpassing a normal large kingdom. In the future, it had the potential to become an empire. Didn't the heavenly demon cult create a heavenly demon warring kingdom in the past? Everyone was clear on how strong the heavenly demon cult was at their peak. Each branch of the 10 great inheritances had several true spirit realm experts guarding them. The small Southern Summer Country's national strength, compared to a warring kingdom, did not have any chance of winning. The Warhound's kingdom had already become a warring kingdom. This generation's Fong King was not born on the Warhound's plains. Rather, he was a king from the Spirit Beast Warring Kingdom, not an independent king. It was no wonder the Fong King could lead such a strong army. With the situation on the Warhound's plains, this army could not be built even after several decades. This was clearly an army provided by the Spirit Beast Warring Kingdom behind the Warhound's kingdom. It was because of this that the Fong King could sweep through everything, destroying the Southern Summer front line in a single night. Now you understand. You have no chance of winning, Wang Tianlong said with a cold smile. Not to mention that you can't win today. So what if you are lucky enough not to be destroyed? In just a few days, the warring kingdom will send several times the number of soldiers. What use is there in defending? How long can you defend for? You traitor! Shut up! A wise man submits to circumstances. The Fong King has ruled over the plains and has now become the Fong King. Wang Tianlong was not moved at all. The destruction of the Southern Summer Country is a fact. Only surrendering to the Warhounds can save the 200 million citizens of the Southern Summer Country from the flames of war. The Southern Summer Country is still the Southern Summer Country. It is nothing more than becoming a subsidiary of the Warhound's kingdom, becoming a small piece of the Eagle Burial Kingdom's territory. Humans can still live their own lives and receive the protection of a strong warring kingdom. So why not? Don't be stubborn. There is no other way other than surrendering. Let the Southern Summer Country become the slave puppets of the spirit beasts. Let the Southern Summer Country pay tribute to the Warhounds. Let the Southern Summer Country pay tribute to the Warhounds. Could it be you want the Southern Summer Country to die and be destroyed? Wang Tianlong loudly shouted. The lives of the millions of innocent citizens in Imperial City are in your hands. If you dare resist the Warhound's cavalry today, the day the city is broken will be the day you slaughter the entire city. You better think this through. The defenders were a bit shaken. The strength of a warring kingdom was too terrifying. The small Southern Summer Country couldn't even fight the Warhounds. Even if the Warhounds agreed, they would only be a large kingdom and a very unstable kingdom. How could they compare to a warring kingdom? Now that the Warhounds' plains had the help of the Eagle Burial Kingdom, they had re-established the Warhounds' kingdom. With a warring kingdom suppressing them, the Warhounds would have fewer internal conflicts in the future. The Warhounds' kingdom had become a vassal state of the Eagle Burial Kingdom. So what qualifications and confidence did the Southern Summer Country have to refuse becoming a vassal state? There were 3 kinds of countries on the continent. The first was an independent country. This was a country with complete sovereignty, diplomatic rights, and exclusive resources. It was not controlled by any outside powers and did not need to pay taxes. The second was a vassal state. A vassal state was not necessarily a kingdom. It could also be a marquis state or a sovereign state. This referred to nobles who were given a title and were given their own territory. The current Fong King was clearly a king of the Eagle Burial Kingdom, so he was given the title of king of the Warhounds' kingdom. Although the Marquis had a high degree of autonomy in their territory, the highest commander of the Warhound's army was still the king. Every year, they mined resources from the treasury. They had to pay a certain amount of taxes to the alliance. The third was a vassal state. A vassal state was different from the previous two. It was a country that was defeated or faced with a stronger country that surrendered. This kind of vassal state did not have any dignity and almost no sovereignty. Not only did they have to pay tribute, they had to be subservient and could not have their own army. The meaning of a vassal state was to work hard, growing food for the main country, cultivating resources, raising demon beasts, and etc. They were not allowed to keep the treasury and had to take it all out to pay tribute. Once the southern summer country became a vassal state of the Warhound's kingdom, their people and resources would not belong to them. But if they resisted the southern summer country, how could they resist the invasion of a large warring kingdom? Scram, you're a person who sells out your ancestors for glory. What qualifications do you have to shout here? Then I want to see how long you can remain arrogant in front of the Warhound's kingdom's overwhelming strength. Wang Tianlong did not plan on keeping them here. Although the Fong king had promised to make him the new southern summer king, the three great clans did not have any meaning in existing. Otherwise, with Wang Tianlong's current strength, how could he suppress these fellows? Kill! He had to kill them all. Wang Tianlong was very clear on the Burning Sun ruler's temper. Since they wouldn't give up until they saw the coffin, they could not convince them to surrender, so he would use strength to speak. The Fong king did not want to waste time. This was because the calm martial ruler did not give the Fong king much time. At this time, a deep bugle sounded. The Warhound's army was preparing to attack. The vanguard was made up of giant beasts, leading around 50,000 Warhound's elites. Most of them were carrying tools to climb the walls, so this was the first wave of Warhounds to attack. Those giant gorilla-like beasts were over 10 meters tall, and each one was covered in incomparably thick armor. The southern summer country's archers posed a very limited threat to them, and even a true soul realm expert would find it hard to heavily injure them in a single hit. Dong, dong, dong. The war drums became more and more intense. This army charged out faster and faster. The Burning Sun ruler knit his brows. Will it really work? Relax. Meng Qingwu tightly clenched her fist. Just wait and see. A giant monster suddenly stepped on something, and a large amount of energy was released from its foot. It released a large amount of light and heat in a short period of time. That wild energy was released like a tsunami, instantly blowing up the giant monster's leg. That giant shockwave sent several hundred Warhound soldiers flying, and quite a few of them were sent flying. The Warhound's vanguard's formation was immediately thrown into chaos. Hong, hong, hong. There were several large explosions. Several more source energy bombs buried underground were detonated. Without any warning, these giant monsters suddenly suffered a violent explosion. Basically, they were all blown to pieces. The power of this explosion was so strong that every time it was released, a black bowl-shaped pit would appear on the ground. Perhaps even a true soul realm expert would be heavily injured or even killed by this explosion. Fire! Meng Qingwu gave an order. The catapults on the city walls were activated and several bombs were shot out from the city walls. They formed a parabola as they landed in the center of the Warhound's army. Hong! Another mushroom cloud appeared. Several hundred Warhound soldiers were in the range of the bombs and were immediately killed by this violent energy. The Warhound's first wave did not even have time to fight before they suffered a heavy setback. Their originally low morale was restored by quite a bit. No matter what happened in the future, they had to win this battle first. After all, the Burning Sun ruler and the Refined ruler were not fools. If the situation reached a point where they could not resist, then they would naturally retreat. Bring the bow. The southern summer bombs were too strong, causing large losses to the Warhounds, which made the Warhounds experts feel very unhappy. When the southern summer country shot out another source energy bomb, a Warhound's expert pulled his bow and shot an arrow at the bomb that was thrown. Hong! This bomb exploded in the air. Quite a few southern summer soldiers on the city walls were injured. When the source energy bomb was shattered, The fragments fell in different places like fireworks. Each fragment exploded, causing a certain amount of damage to the warhounds. What was this thing? The warhounds were very shocked. Mind's eye. Wang Tianlong used his divine sense to observe the ground in front of him and was surprised to find that there were many high-energy objects buried in the ground in front of Imperial City. It was these things that had sent the warhounds' giant beasts flying. Umph! The Fawn King had clearly noticed this as he coldly raised the golden drum. Shoot the arrows in front of you. The warhounds' archers immediately shot out arrows, and a large rain of arrows fell down. Those source energy bombs that did not explode in time were mostly detonated by the rain of arrows. Like this, the buried mines were completely useless. Chapter 678. More than 10 days later, before Royal City had fallen into the enemy's hands, the elf Aubersen left Imperial City and rode his dragon hawk beast south. He passed through Central State, Qing State, and Southern State before arriving in a boundless primitive forest. An entire tens of thousands of miles was covered in forest as if it had never been developed before. There were large amounts of unimaginably terrifying fierce beasts living here, with level 3 demon beasts being common. Whether it was the southern summer country or the warhounds country, this was a wild area that could not be developed. Aubersen recklessly charged into the territory of these fierce beasts, but he ignored the warning and hostile roars coming from all around him. Not a single fierce beast dared to attack him. These fierce beasts did not have high intelligence, but they could tell who was strong and who was weak. Even without the unfathomable Aubersen, the dragon hawk beast he was riding was a powerful level 3 demon beast. Its wings were over 10 meters long, and its body was covered in red dragon scales. It had the claws and head of an eagle, and the sharp aura it released was enough to deter most fierce beasts. When Aubersen passed through the endless mountains, traces of civilization began to appear. He arrived in the sky above an emerald forest. Although this was also a forest, there was a clear difference compared to other areas. The forest colors were bright and beautiful, and it was full of vitality. Every tree gave people the feeling that they weren't just plants, but living creatures. The entire forest covered over 100 miles, and there were many trees that were over 100 meters tall. Each tree was comparable to a skyscraper in the human world. The holes in the trees had wooden windows, and there were delicate tree houses hanging outside. It's Elder Aubersen. Elder Aubersen is back. The dragon hawk flying through the forest attracted the attention of some elves, but when the elves saw the person on the dragon hawk, they immediately let down their guard. They put down the bows in their hands and began to cheer. These elves were hidden in the forest, almost blending into the forest. If they didn't show themselves, it was almost impossible to detect them. Aubersen jumped down and fell down from 200 meters in the air. He was like a light leaf as he passed through the branches of the trees. He grabbed a vine and gently swung down, falling onto a carpet of grass. Elder Aubersen, you're finally back. Has the tribe been fine recently? Have the northern ogres stopped? How are the southern lizardmen? Has that violent mountain giant awakened yet? Relax, everything is fine. Figures jumped out from the trees all around them. They were as beautiful as butterflies, quickly covering their bodies. The elves were not the same as humans. There is a large difference in the appearance of humans. The fat ones could be as fat as a ball. The skinny ones could be as thin as a bamboo pole. The beautiful ones could be able to cause the fall of a country, and the ugly ones could be comparable to demons. There was no such thing as being too fat, too thin, or too ugly among the elves. Almost every female elf would be a first-class beauty if they were placed among humans. It was because of this that the elves became one of the races that produced the most beautiful men and women on the continent. Aubersen was a very popular person in the tribe because Aubersen's status was very special. The elves were a very closed-off race, and most elves were not allowed to participate in worldly affairs, so the elves were very closed off to the outside world. Aubersen's job was to wander around and collect information about the surrounding countries. Every time he went out, He would be gone for a year or two, and every time he came back, he would bring back interesting news and customs from different countries. Because of this, the young men and women of the elves liked to pester him. Auberson gave a very friendly greeting. "Hello, everyone. Hey, Uncle Auberson." At this time, a clear and melodious voice rang out. To Auberson, this voice was simply synonymous with the devil. He felt a headache coming on, but he had no choice but to look up with a smile. Isn't this little Princess Vivian? I haven't seen Vivian for a year, and you've become even more beautiful than before." Auberson had just looked up when he saw a pair of slender and beautiful legs. They were very white and slender, like they were carved from jade. It could be considered a perfect work of art, swinging back and forth on the swing. When this girl came, even with Auberson's abilities, he didn't notice her at all. However, Auberson was already used to this. This was a very beautiful elf girl. She had the appearance of a 12 to 13-year-old human. She was wearing a dress made of tree leaves, and her dark green hair was adorned with an exquisite crown of flowers. Her small and exquisite face was extremely beautiful, and she looked like a fairy from the forest. Even in the elven race, this elven girl was a 1 in 10,000 great beauty. "Humph, I won't listen to you." Little Princess Vivian disappeared from the swing and instantly appeared on the ground. She was holding a bright red fruit in her hand, and with a cacha sound, she took a bite and juice splashed everywhere. Her sparkling eyes stared at Auberson, and she vaguely said, "Where's my present? You wouldn't have forgotten, right?" Auberson quickly wiped his sweat. "Of course I wouldn't forget little Princess Vivian's arrangements. I believe that you will like it this time." "Don't lie to me. You said the same thing last time, and the thing you brought back was some large warring kingdom's national treasure, a treasure left behind by an ancient divine race. In the end, I didn't like it at all. This time I passed by a small human country and found a very interesting thing. Although the value isn't high, you will definitely be satisfied." The little princess jade-like eyes lit up. She didn't want anything valuable. It was enough as long as it was fun. Auberson took out the video disc player. "What kind of thing is this? Isn't it just a mirror?" "It's called a video disc player, a thing that can store sound and images. It is very interesting. I'll teach you how to use it. There are also many other things, magnetic sound machines, food, light bulbs, and etc. There will always be something you will like." Little Princess Vivian was a bit interested. "Then I'll take it back and try it out." The little princess lifted the video disc player with one hand and put everything else into her storage ring. When Auberson let out a sigh of relief, the little princess suddenly turned around and glared at him. "If it isn't as magical as you say, or if it isn't fun at all, I'll go to your garden and pull out all the flowers and plants." Auberson's body trembled. How could this be? Those were his lifeblood. The little princess did not give Auberson a chance to speak. With a flicker of her body, she disappeared on the spot. Auberson opened his mouth, but he did not have time to say anything. He could only pray that the magical things the small southern summer country found would be enough to satisfy this little princess. The little princess' innate talent was very special. Even Auberson could not catch up to her. In just a few breaths of time, the little princess had already returned to her treehouse. "Everyone quickly come and see." The little princess brought back something fun again. When the little princess returned to her treehouse, she immediately attracted a large group of elves. These elves were all younger than the little princess, and there were several that looked like 4 or 5-year-old human children. They were currently biting their fingers and looking at her with an innocent expression. "Big sister princess, what is this? Why have I never seen it before?" The little princess had a very proud appearance. She stood in the middle of the countless little elves like a high king of children. This thing was brought back from the human world. This princess has never seen it before, so of course you haven't seen it before. Then how we play with it? Hey, don't be anxious. Let me slowly study it. What is this? It smells so good. A 6-year-old elf took out a can. "Is this food?" "Greedy ghost, you only know how to eat." The little princess said, "Auberson said that this is a can of human food, and it tastes pretty good. Since we brought back quite a bit, we can all share it." The little princess had a very straightforward personality, which was why the children liked to play with her. In just a while, the several hundred cans Auberson brought back were divided among the children. Huh. The little princess opened a can and immediately smelled an even stronger fragrance. This made the little princess feel very surprised. Could it be that humans could also cook demon beast meat? She had always thought that only the elves could cook demon beast meat on the continent. Delicious, too delicious. These elven children were all eating with relish. Although the elves could cook demon beast meat, the elves usually ate vegetarian food, so they weren't very good at cooking meat. When they ate Miracle Commerce's Source Energy cooking and human cooking recipes, each of the elves was filled with praise. Was it really that delicious? The little princess opened a can of violent bear meat. The meat was delicious, it was chewy, and the bones were very chewy. This was a very special delicacy. The little princess even drank all the soup, and she suddenly felt a bit of regret. This kind of delicious thing, she wouldn't have told the others about it. But because of her face, she couldn't take it back. Little princess, how do you use this video disc player? Let me try. Vivian used the method Auberson taught her to turn on the video disc player. Several dozen pairs of clear eyes looked over at the same time, and they saw the reflective surface of the mirror suddenly light up as images began to appear. These timid elves were all startled, and they all ran away in a puff of smoke. What's going on? Why can we see other worlds in this mirror? My God, could this be the legendary planar mirror? This is an ancient era's divine weapon. The little princess was also very surprised at first. She had never encountered this kind of situation before. However, the little princess could feel that the energy fluctuations from this item were very weak, so it couldn't be a divine weapon. So she raised her hand and said, "Don't panic, don't panic. This thing isn't dangerous." Everyone was skeptical, but they couldn't resist their curiosity. Several dozen little heads slowly gathered around, and when they saw the image being played, they all had a shocked expression on their faces. It was like they didn't dare believe what they were seeing at all. Exclamations and screams filled the air. Wow, there's a picture. This thing can move. It's like it's connected to another world. What kind of technique is this? Some elves couldn't help but touch it with their hands. In the end, it was like touching a smooth and cold mirror, as if a layer of transparent glass had separated them from the other world. You guys are blocking me. Little Princess Vivian couldn't understand all this. She shouted loudly, "Don't be noisy, don't be noisy. There's a sound inside. If you guys are noisy, I won't be able to hear it. If you guys don't listen to me, I won't show it to you." All the elven children immediately became obedient. Everyone's eyes widened as they looked at the new monster in front of them, dumbfounded. Chapter 679. The war drums were like thunder, shaking the earth. The warhounds' army charged forward like a dark mass, finally beginning their full attack. When they entered the range of the southern summer archers, a terrifying whistling sound came from the sky. It was like a large dark cloud was covering them, instantly blocking the sunlight as countless arrows fell down. Ice, fire, and explosion, these runes? The arrows had shocking might, instantly causing heavy losses to the warhound's army. Release the arrows. Counterattack. A warhound's chief personally led the charge. Let them see the might of the warhound's kingdom. The warhound's army charged forward with a strange roar, shooting arrows into the sky. Countless arrows fell onto the city walls. Tried to use the rain of arrows to suppress the resistance of the southern summer defenders. The refined ruler coldly ordered, "Activate the array." The Shangwan family's people stood in a circle, each of them holding a banner covered in talismans. Suddenly, the flag was stuck on the city wall. Talisman? The talismans were activated, immediately forming a protective barrier around the city walls. The warhounds' arrows were all bounced off the protective barrier. The warhounds tried to climb the city walls, but the southern summer country had already placed large amounts of talismans on the city walls. As long as the warhounds touched the trap, it would immediately trigger flames, frost, or explosions. Was it easy for the warhounds' army to climb the city walls? The Southern Summer defenders just needed to hold on. As long as the city was not broken, it would be victory. The calm martial ruler had escaped from the battle in Song State, so the situation would instantly change. The Fawn King was well aware of this, so he did not hesitate to go crazy. The Fawn King coldly stared at the intense battlefield. Move out with the vulture cavalry. Large amounts of black dots appeared in the clouds at this time. Countless warhounds, soldiers riding vultures passed through the defensive line and appeared in the sky above Imperial City. After all, Royal City was not a fortress. The frontline fortresses were almost completely enclosed fortresses, but it was impossible for Royal City to be enclosed. Therefore, the aerial troops could completely bypass the defensive line and land in the center of the city to launch an attack, breaking through Royal City's defenses from the inside. Large amounts of Warhound soldiers fell down from the sky like dumplings. The Warhound's vulture cavalry had transported at least 40,000 Warhound's elite soldiers into Imperial City. If these 40,000 elite soldiers and 20,000 vulture cavalry attacked from the inside, it would be a large disturbance and trouble for the Southern Summer Country. The Wild Flame Army blocked the enemy's airborne troops. The Burning Sun ruler immediately ordered the Nangong family's Wild Flame heavy armor to move out, creating a solid defense for Imperial City from the inside. Griffin Knights, go forward and tie down this aerial army. The 2,000-strong Griffin Knights had been waiting for a long time. When they received the Burning Sun ruler's order, they immediately flew into the sky and attacked the Vulture cavalry, 10 times their number, in the sky above Imperial City. Although the Griffin Knights did not have the advantage in numbers, their aura was not inferior at all. The Griffin Knights themselves were not weak level 2 demon beasts, and each of the Royal Knights was a peak elite of the Southern Summer Country. Even if the enemy was 10 times their number, they still had the ability to fight. This is the Southern Summer Country's strongest trump card army. The Vulture cavalry commander gave a cold laugh. Truly laughable fools. The Griffin Knights were the peak force protecting the Southern Summer Country and Imperial City. In order to create the Griffin Knights, the Southern Summer Country bought griffins from other countries at a high price each year and invested a large amount of resources into the Griffin Knights. These Griffin Knights represented the Southern Summer Country's authority in a sense. If they could defeat this army, it would be a destructive blow to the Southern Summer Country's morale. Since they're seeking death, we'll let them see how strong our Eagle Burial Kingdom's aerial army is. The Vulture cavalry commander loudly ordered, "Kill." The Griffin Knight commander faced the dense amount of Vulture cavalry and immediately raised a spear high up as he shouted, "Prepare for battle." The two aerial armies moved rapidly against each other. Just as they were about to collide, the Griffin Knight commander loudly shouted, "Windblade array!" 2,000 griffins simultaneously gathered their strength and released a wave of cyan windblades. The griffins were much stronger than the vultures, so this storm-like wave of windblades was very powerful. If they directly hit the vultures, they would definitely not be able to withstand it. In an instant, a large number of them would be wiped out. But how could it be this easy? The Vulture cavalry was a regular army of the Eagle Burial Kingdom. Not only were they well-trained, they also had rich battle experience. When the griffins gathered their strength, the Vulture cavalry were already prepared and dodged at the same time. The green wind blades passed through them, but not many of them hit their target. Looking from the ground, the orderly Vulture cavalry suddenly exploded. All the Vulture cavalry moved in different directions, instantly forming a semicircle that seemed like it was trying to swallow the Griffin Knights. Kill them. The Vulture cavalry completely surrounded the Griffin Knights, sealing off the space around them. After all, the Vulture cavalry had the advantage in numbers. If they used a blockade strategy, the Griffin cavalry's movements would be hindered. Although the Royal Knights were very strong and the Griffin mounts were very fierce, the Warhound's Vulture cavalry were not bad either. Once they were surrounded by the Vulture cavalry, it would be hard for them to escape in a short period of time. The Griffin Knight commander's expression changed. Break through. How could it be that easy? Shoot. The Griffin Knights only had one spear, and most of the time they fought, they relied on their griffins to charge at the enemy. The griffins could release strong wind blades, which made up for their lack of long-range attacks, so the Griffin Knights did not have long-range weapons. The vulture cavalry situation was different. The vulture beasts had thick skin and were very fast, but they did not have long-range attacks. It was because of this that the vulture cavalry selection process had to be divine archers. There were even some strong vulture beasts that were paired with two cavalrymen, one for close combat and one for long-range attacks, so they could work together seamlessly. The Griffin Knights had just entered close combat with the first row of vulture cavalry when the second and third row of vultures released a large wave of arrows. With the close-range attacks in front and the long-range attacks in the back, with this kind of long-range attacks and close-range attacks, the Griffin Knights would not be able to hold on for long, even with the Griffin's wind-attributed barrier. They immediately fell into a disadvantageous position and tried to break through several times without success. It really wasn't good. The Southern Summer Country was a small country in the end, so they lacked experience in aerial battles. Even the elite Griffin Knights did not have much experience in aerial battles. When they fought against a trained aerial force, even if they had an advantage in individual strength, they would still be suppressed. Dong, dong, dong. The Warhounds' black tide of attacks became even fiercer. Whether it was the Imperial City defenders or the Warhounds, their casualties kept rising. Because the Vulture Cavalry had dropped a group of airborne soldiers into the Southern Summer Country, the city walls were in chaos. There were quite a few Warhound soldiers that did not fear death climbing up the walls. Throw the bombs. Quickly. The Southern Summer defenders had no way to deal with the Warhounds' soldiers climbing up, so they could only throw the last batch of source energy bombs down from the city walls. Instantly, the earth shook as large amounts of explosions appeared on the city walls. Each source energy bomb released a terrifying light and heat, causing the Imperial City to tremble under this terrifying power. Each explosion occurred where the Warhound soldiers were gathered, instantly tearing apart over 100 Warhound soldiers. The Warhound's army was shocked by the terrifying might of the source energy bombs. The might of these weapons was just too terrifying. Don't care about them. Continue killing. The Southern Summer Country's city walls are about to be broken. The Warhound's army was incomparably fierce. With these powerful source energy bombs, although they could barely suppress the Warhound's attack, the Warhounds came back after a while, attacking the city walls like ants. In terms of defense, the Southern Summer Imperial City could not compare to the frontline fortress. Because the Imperial City was too big and there were too many people, there were 9 city gates. The Warhound's army attacked 7 of the city gates at the same time. Miracle Commerce's source energy bombs were very limited and they were almost all used up, so they could not stop the Warhound's soldiers from attacking the city. The Southern Summer Country's proud Griffin Knights were currently being suppressed by the Vulture Knights, so they had no way to reinforce the defense. Instead, more and more Warhound soldiers were creating chaos in Imperial City, wantonly setting fires and attacking, making the situation even more chaotic. Finally, a Warhound's army successfully climbed up the city walls, and the following troops continued to pour in like a tide. Each one of them was fighting with no fear of death, making the Southern Summer Army much weaker in comparison. Meng Qinggu saw many parts of the city walls being invaded by the Warhound's army and knew that Imperial City could not be defended for much longer. She immediately said to the Burning Sun ruler and the Refined ruler, "It's about time." The two rulers nodded to each other. The Burning Sun ruler raised a flag high up, and a horn sounded in Imperial City. The Fawn King knit his brows when he saw this. Did the Southern Summer Country still have a move they hadn't used? At this time, the Griffin Knights, surrounded by the Vulture Knights, suddenly began to counterattack. The 2,000 Griffin Knights charged forward with a lance in one hand and a source energy submachine gun in the other. This weapon is... Wang Tianlong was shocked when he saw the weapon the Griffin Knights were using. Wang Tianlong was not unfamiliar with this thing. He had seen it in Chu Tian's hands before. But Wang Tianlong always thought that it was a special treasure. Who would have thought that the Griffin Knights would all have one? Wang Tianlong had seen the might of this weapon before. If everyone had one, how terrifying would that be? The Griffin Knight commander loudly shouted, "Kill them all!" The warhounds did not even have time to react before the source energy submachine gun spat out a dazzling white flame. Several thousand energy bullets flew out at a speed faster than arrows. The firing speed was too fast, and the attack was too sudden. How could the Vulture Knights resist at such a close distance? Instantly, several hundred vultures fell from the sky, creating a gap in the Vulture Knights' encirclement. The Griffin Knights used a storm of bullets to create a gap in the Vulture Knights' formation, causing heavy casualties to the vultures. Then they charged down the city walls, and the muzzles of their submachine guns swept across the densely packed warhound soldiers on the city walls. The sky was filled with densely packed light bullets. This was the effect of 2,000 source energy submachine guns firing at the same time. Not only were the source energy bullets small, they were also faster than arrows. Shooting at such a close distance, the warhound soldiers did not have time to dodge at all. A large number of them were instantly killed, greatly relieving the pressure on the city walls. This was the Nangong family's over 10,000 Wild Flame heavy armor army. They held pistols in their left hands and large swords in their right hands as they fought the warhound soldiers that dropped in from the sky. The result did not have any suspense, as the warhound soldiers were defeated in a single battle. How could they block this terrifying army? The Nangong family's Wild Flame heavy armor soldiers already had strong close combat abilities, and now, with the assistance of the pistols, they could easily pierce through an awakened soul cultivator's protective spirit energy. Although these warhound soldiers were elites, how many of them were awakened soul cultivators? This was a completely one-sided situation. They had regained their air superiority, relieved the pressure on the city walls, and cleared out the enemies in the city. The southern summer imperial city was becoming smoother and smoother, so the warhounds would not be able to break through Imperial City. These humans really do have some methods. The Fong King's eyes seemed like they were spitting fire, but he was not flustered and exasperated. Rather, he calmly said, "How are the preparations on that side?" Wang Tianlong confidently said, "Please be assured, Fong King. Everything has been prepared, and these fellows won't be happy for long." Chapter 680. Although these elves look like children, in fact, according to human age, their average age could reach 40 to 50 years old. Although the mental development of the elves was relatively slow, and their cultivation speed and efficiency were not comparable to that of humans, after such a long time, no matter how slow their growth was, they were still much stronger than they looked. The weakest of these elves was in the awakened soul realm, with 7-8 being in the late awakened soul realm. Other than little Princess Vivian, there was also one in the true spirit realm. Just a group of children already had this kind of terrifying strength. It could be imagined just how strong the elves were. However, no matter how strong they were still children, so they were very curious about this strange thing they had never seen before. The narration slowly sounded out. Although the human language and elven language were two completely different languages, the human language was not hard to learn. Humans were one of the most important races on the continent, so the human language was something every elf had to learn since they were young, so it wasn't a problem for them to understand it. This illusory image stone was not a real movie, so the scenes were exaggerated. So, when the people fought, the scenes were often heaven-shattering and the elves' eyes were glued to it. Too great. Satisfying, it was very satisfying. This was simply a feast for the eyes and imagination. The entire treehouse was silent. Each little elf found that other than the intense fighting scenes, the most attractive part was the story itself. The elves were an intelligent life form that was 10 times more sensitive than humans. Therefore, when they watched the movie, they were 10 times more immersed than humans. The main character met the princess. That faintly discernible love that people couldn't grasp made the elves' hearts itch. That handsome and brave male lead, Chu Tian, and that beautiful and kind princess Meng Ying, Both of them had a pure heart and a noble character, making the elves instantly fall in love with them. "I'm so angry," an 11 or 12-year-old elf girl angrily said. "Why is this Chu Tian so cowardly? If he likes her, then he should pursue her." "That's right. Can't he see that Princess Manging also likes him? That blockhead. Idiot. What do you know?" The little princess waved her hand and said in an old-fashioned manner, "The human kingdoms care a lot about status. This warrior named Chu Tian is only a wandering swordsman, and that Manging is a noble princess. Do you think that in the human kingdoms, normal people can casually walk together with princesses?" The elves all fell into deep thought. What? Humans are just so annoying. Why do they care so much about these superficial things? The elves had a hard time understanding the human worldview. These normal elves playing around with the little princess didn't feel like there was anything wrong with it. In the elven race, even if the elven king ate with the lowest level elves, no one would feel that there was anything wrong with it. The little princess is right. Another elf began to show off her knowledge. Think about it. If an ogre wanted to win over our little princess, do you think the great elder would agree? Hey, little Princess Vivian's face turned red with anger. Chu Tian is such a handsome, righteous, and brave person. How could he compare to an ogre? This is simply shameful. Aren't they the same in the eyes of humans? Unreasonable humans. When the elves were arguing, the development of the plot increased suspense. The kingdom's general secretly reported this matter and distorted the truth. The king was immediately enraged and prepared to put the princess under house arrest and execute the human warriors. Damn, the human king was too evil. Which part of Chu Tian wasn't worthy of the princess? Why did he stop her? The elves were filled with righteous indignation and were filled with anger. They broke out in cold sweat for the fate of the two of them. Who would have thought that at this time, the princess would escape in the middle of the night when she received the news? A series of thrilling and exciting escape scenes made people break out in cold sweat. This was too exciting. There was no doubt that the male and female protagonists were intelligent. In the end, when the two of them were about to meet in the village, an unexpected event occurred. The Scarlet Blood religion appeared and captured the kind princess. The remnants of the Scarlet Blood religion were wildly slaughtering innocent humans, using evil techniques to collect blood essence. When they saw this incomparably tragic murder, each elf's face turned red with anger and their bodies trembled with anger. It was as if those people who died were real, living people. How could there be such evil people in this world? What should they do? What would happen to the male and female protagonists? The plot of the story was only half done, but the pace continued to increase. The story became more and more exciting, with all kinds of suspense and foreshadowing, finally exploding in the decisive battle. No, don't die. When they saw the main character Chu Tian sink into the bottomless swamp to save the princess, each elf shed tears of grief. Could it be that after putting in so much effort, it still ended in a tragedy? Just when the elves were feeling very sad about this, a miraculous turn of events happened. The final ending of the story was that everyone thought that the warrior and the princess were dead, while the warrior and the princess hid their identities and lived in seclusion in a place where no one would disturb them, living a quiet and peaceful life. Good. The elves' hands almost broke from clapping. The final ending was just to their liking. The little princess also smiled through her tears. This was more like it. Good people should be rewarded. This gift was just too great. She loved this story to death. Is there really a person named Chu Tian in the human world? If he really exists, I must see him. That's right. He is my idol right now. The elves began to chatter. If there really was a person named Chu Tian in the human world, they had to see him no matter what. Princess Vivian, tomorrow is my 100-year-old birthday. An elf that didn't look much older than the little princess looked at the video player. I really like this. Can you give it to me? Another elf called out. Doesn't the princess want my mount? How about I exchange it for this video player? Princess, not exchanging. The little princess angrily opened her eyes and reached out her arms to block the video player. It was like her sacred sovereignty was being invaded. This video player is this princess' most precious gift. Without my permission, if anyone dares to touch it, I will beat them until their head is full of bruises. Stingy. I'm stingy. I'm stingy. Let's ignore her and ask Elder Obersen for it. The elves looked at the video player with faces filled with longing and envy. If someone was willing to take out another one, they were willing to take out all their treasures to exchange. But since Elder Obersen could bring back one, why couldn't he bring back a second or third? The little princess also thought that since there was a story, why couldn't there be a second or third? Obersen's treehouse was quickly invaded by these children. When he saw the little elves charging at him, Obersen was instantly scared out of his wits. How could they do this? Obersen quickly explained that there was only one of these things. There's nothing else. There really was nothing else. Obersen's persuasion was useless, and he could only promise in the end, this human country is not far from us. When I have time in the future, I will definitely bring back gifts for you all. The elves were not satisfied with this, but there was nothing they could do. After all, Elder Obersen couldn't just make something out of nothing. Little Princess Vivian was the only one in the entire elven tribe that had a video player. This news quickly spread, and the little elves returned home to tell their elders. There were even some adult elves that came to ask little Princess Vivian to borrow the video player. Vivian was very angry. This thing was her precious treasure. How could she casually lend it out? The more people couldn't see it, the more curious they became. The Oldman tribe is willing to trade a month's worth of Moonlight Well water for little Princess Vivian's video player. The Greenleaf tribe is willing to trade a branch of the Tree of Life for little Princess Vivian's video player. Little Princess Vivian used to be the symbol of mischief and trouble. Almost no one liked to provoke her. In the past few days, little Princess Vivian had become completely popular. The treasure in her hands was not only coveted by her own people, but even some of the surrounding tribes had come to negotiate with her. I won't trade. If I say I won't trade, then I won't trade. Even if you take out a dragon egg, this princess won't trade. Princess Vivian was flustered and exasperated as she made a move. She actually chased away a group of people that came to negotiate and finally locked herself in a treehouse. The elven tribe was instantly thrown into chaos. This was because the people that were chased away by Princess Vivian had gone back to complain. These tribes immediately sent out a message saying that the elves were provoking their allies and breaking the alliance. If they didn't give a reasonable explanation, they would complain to the Elven Council. How would they compensate them? Of course, they would take out the video player. Good things should be shared with the forest. This matter alarmed the Great Elder, and in the end, Vivian had no choice but to hand over her beloved video disc player under pressure. Because of this matter, she cried all night, as if her most beloved toy had been snatched away by someone else. Night gradually fell. Little Princess Vivian had a bitter look on her face as she stayed in the treehouse. In just a few short days, she felt the deep malice of this world. Now that the video player had been borrowed, she didn't know when those people would return it. Elder Obersen was not willing to reveal the origin of the video player because the elves were a peaceful race with principles. Elder Obersen was afraid that once the origin was revealed, that place would no longer be peaceful. But Obersen had miscalculated. Did he think that no one would know if he didn't say it? Little Princess Vivian had a magnetic sound device in her hands, as well as several dozen discs bought from the Southern Summer Country humans. These discs were bought by Elder Obersen at a high price in the Southern Summer Country, and he did not even know what was recorded on them. Vivian had learned her lesson. She hid these things and enjoyed them secretly every night. There were stories, there was music, there was teaching, and there were all kinds of lectures. In short, the content was very rich. What made little Princess Vivian the most pleasantly surprised was that she learned that these things came from a small human kingdom in the north. What made little Princess Vivian even more excited was that the Chu Tian in the movies really existed. These cameras, the magnetic sound device, the video player, and everything else, they were all invented by him. Little Princess Vivian's feelings towards Chu Tian went from admiration and liking to worship. Chapter 681. The Warhound soldiers dropped by the Vulture Knights were being pushed back by the Nangong family's Wild Flame Army. The Wild Flame Army was the strongest infantry army in the southern Summer Country. Each one was covered in incomparably thick armor. Even an early-stage awakened soul cultivator would find it hard to break through their defenses. Moreover, the Wild Flame Army was trained with the Nangong family's secret technique, so they were all tall and strong, almost not feeling any pain. Although they were in the peak ninth body refinement layer, their individual strength was close to an awakened soul cultivator. An entire 10,000 Wild Flame warriors held giant broadswords in their right hands and source energy pistols in their left. The Warhound soldiers tried to break through the encirclement several times, but they were all forced back together. Almost at the same time, the Griffin Knights supported the walls, instantly eliminating the pressure on the Southern Summer Army, giving the Southern Summer Army enough time to regain their footing. Although Imperial City was in a mess because of the flames of battle, the most dangerous wave of attacks had already been stopped. The Griffin Knights once again began fighting with the Vulture Knights. Each Griffin Knight had at least one energy magazine left. In front of the high firing speed and firepower of the source energy submachine guns, the Vulture Knights could not form a proper battle formation. After several rounds of attacks from the Griffin Knights, the Vulture Knights had suffered 3-4 times the casualties of the Griffin Knights. Ah ha ha ha! The Burning Sun ruler punched a Warhound's general's body. His body was covered in blood, and his red hair danced in the wind. He stared at the retreating Warhound soldiers and gave a wild laugh. The Warhounds only amount to this much, daring to attack my southern Summer Country. I'll make sure you never return. The refined ruler had killed several enemy, high-level generals. At this moment, the most dangerous wave of attacks from the Warhounds had been stopped. The Warhounds' Vulture Knights had suffered heavy casualties, and the elites that had landed in the city had been chased by the Wild Flame Army, with most of them dying. The Warhounds had surrounded the city and suffered heavy casualties. If they chose to retreat now, it would not be easy to attack the city again. On one hand, after this battle, the southern Summer Country's confidence had increased. On the other hand, the calm martial ruler was about to return, and the southern Summer Cavalry did not have much time left for the Warhounds. Miracle Commerce's source energy weapons had played a crucial role. It was because of the powerful source energy weapons that the Griffin Knights could escape from their disadvantage, allowing the Wild Flame Army to easily defeat the Warhounds' elites. It was also because of the deterrence of the source energy weapons that the Warhounds' main experts, including the Fong King, did not dare make any rash moves, greatly reducing the pressure on their defenses. The refined ruler took out the dark gold pen from the chest of a Warhound's general. When his eyes swept over the Warhound's army below the city, he suddenly noticed a different situation. Where did their main cavalry go? With these words, the Burning Sun ruler was also alerted. The most important part of the Warhound's army was the demonic wolf cavalry. This was an army with a battle strength that made people's blood run cold. Only no matter how intense the battle was, the Fong King was able to remain calm and did not use this army to attack the city. Now that he looked over, he was shocked to find that the nightmarish Black Army had already disappeared. The southern Summer people were cheering for their victory. The Burning Sun ruler looked at the Fong King. Although they were very far away, the Fong King's eyes did not contain any anger or defeat. Rather, there was a deep sense of cunning, as if he was waiting for something. This is bad. Could it be that he still had a backup plan? When the Burning Sun ruler and the refined ruler felt this was bad, there was a series of sounds of fighting that came from the center of Imperial City. There were also the faint roars of angry wolves mixed in. The Warhounds' elites that had been suppressed by the Wild Flame Army suddenly began to fight back like they were on steroids. Before the Wild Flame Army could even react, from the roofs and corners of the surroundings, there were even people that jumped over the walls. Like a flood, thousands of Black Wolf cavalry suddenly appeared. This is bad. It was too sudden, and the Wild Flame Army did not have time to counterattack. Countless demon wolf cavalry swarmed in, instantly cutting into the wild flame army's formation. Moreover, their numbers kept increasing, surpassing the wild flame army in an instant. It was like a group of wild dogs fighting for a delicious piece of meat, instantly throwing the wild flame army into chaos. The Warhound's cavalry had appeared in Imperial City. Everyone turned pale with fright. What was going on? Why would the Warhound's cavalry appear in the city? A person quickly ran over to report. The enemy is coming from the Nangong family's direction. This is impossible. The Burning Sun ruler could not help but believe this. Large groups of incomparably fierce black figures were continuously charging out. The agile demon wolf cavalry jumped from rooftop to rooftop, constantly killing the innocent civilians and soldiers on the streets. 5,000. The ruler was incomparably indignant. Imperial City was about to be defended, but who would have thought that there would be this kind of change? You are the shame of the southern summer country. Nangong Ling did not care. No matter what you say, the Dongfang family's southern summer country cannot be protected. The Nangong and Shangwan families do not need to be buried with him. The True Spirit Realm Warhound's chief on the side was already impatient. Too much nonsense attack. The demon wolf cavalry wildly charged at the city walls. The southern summer country's defenses were all external, so now that the enemy was attacking from within, how could they defend? The Fong King could feel the change in the city from outside the city. He gave a cold smile and raised the purple-gold Thunder God's drum in his hand. The time has come. Attack the city with me. The Fong King personally made a move. Other than the Fong King, the Warhounds had at least 4 other True Spirit Realm experts. The number of troops, scale, and battle strength far surpassed the southern summer countries. Now that they were attacking Imperial City from the inside, how would the southern summer country defend it? 2 rulers of the southern summer country. Let me face you. The Fong King stomped on the ground and jumped several dozen meters off the city walls. His feet used the depression in the city walls to jump several dozen meters off the ground, and he actually landed on top of the city walls. The city walls were already burning, and the soldiers were resisting the enemies from all directions. How could they concentrate their firepower on the Fong King? The Fong King casually raised the purple-gold Thunder God's drum in his hand, and several southern summer soldiers surrounding him were turned to ashes by the lightning. The Burning Sun ruler said to Meng Qingwu beside him, "You guys retreat first, retreat to the royal palace." Chun Bingyu brought Meng Qingwu away from the battlefield. This battle was not something they could interfere with. The Fong King did not chase, and he disdained chasing because in the entire Imperial City, there were only these 2 in front of him that were worthy of being his opponent. The Burning Sun ruler and the Refined ruler did not say a word as they attacked the Fong King at the same time. Hong, hong, hong. The entire city walls continued to explode. 3 True Spirit Realm experts fiercely clashed, and the destructive power of this level of battle was very shocking. Large pieces of the city walls collapsed, and the scene became a chaotic mess. At this time, 3 figures flew out at the same time and landed on the ruins. Both sides had only exchanged a few moves, but the Refined ruler and the Burning Sun ruler were both injured, while the Fong King didn't seem to have any injuries at all. He still had a relaxed appearance, and just from this, it could be seen how big the difference in strength was. The Fong King said with a laugh of ridicule, "The Southern Summer 3 rulers only have this much strength?" At this time, they were surrounded by the Warhound's army on all sides. The Burning Sun ruler and the Refined ruler looked at each other. Retreat. The 2 of them retreated, and several Warhound's plains chiefs chased after them, but they were stopped by the Fong King. The Fong King calmly said, "There is no need to worry about 2 True Spirit Realm cultivators. Our mission is to take down the Southern Summer Imperial City. Even if the Tsang State Cavalry arrives, they won't be able to turn the situation around. No matter what tricks the other side plays, victory will still belong to us." Yes. Chapter 682. At dusk, the Emerald Forest was covered in a peaceful twilight. The elves had a long lifespan, and the pace of their lives was slow and leisurely. Almost no one was diligent in training. Everyone liked to play with flowers and plants, study carving, music, or other arts. At this time, an elderly elf passed by the princess treehouse with 2 books in his hands. He asked 2 elven patrolling guards, "Why didn't I see little Princess Vivian? She's usually very active. I saw her a few minutes ago. She went back to the treehouse. This girl's toy was borrowed by someone. She's probably angry now, but according to her usual habits, she'll be fine in 2 days. Don't go and touch her now, or you'll be in trouble." "We know." The elderly elf looked up at the treehouse, shook his head, and left. Actually, the entire tribe did not know that Vivian had already quietly slipped away. She took advantage of when no one was paying attention and used her innate spatial energy to secretly leave the tribe. In a short period of time, she passed through the forest and trekked through several dangerous areas to the north, finally arriving at the border of the southern summer country's southern state region. Is this the human country in front of us? The sky was already dark. Vivian stood on her tiptoes on a mountain peak and looked into the distance. She could vaguely see the lights of the southern summer country's southern border posts. The little princess couldn't help feeling nervous. She had learned some information about the humans from the tribe's elders. Humans were a very complex life form. Whether it was their appearance or their character, they were not evenly distributed. There were beautiful women like Princess Meng Ying in the movies. There were ugly monsters like the Scarlet Moon religion leader. There were selfless warriors like Chu Tian in the movies. And there were also treacherous and vicious bad people. In short, good, evil, ugly, and beautiful had never been reflected so vividly in a race. This was something that could not be seen in other races, so humans were the most complex race. It was because of this that their movies were so popular. Although there were many good people in the human race, the elves all believed that humans were greedy and treacherous, so the elves did not have a good impression of humans. This was also the reason why the elves were so determined to break off relations with humans and not interact with them. Little Princess Vivian had heard and seen for a long time, so she was naturally a bit nervous and afraid of humans. It was said that there were some evil and daring human bandits that would attack the elven tribes and kidnap the beautiful elven girls, just to satisfy the human nobles' desires. Just thinking about it was terrifying. If it wasn't for Chu Tian being here, Vivian would not have come into contact with humans at all. How could the little princess know that the southern summer country was a weak little kingdom? Even if the peak experts, the 3 rulers of the southern summer country, worked together, they still wouldn't have the qualifications to exchange blows with her. With her innate spatial energy that was rarely seen on the continent, how many people on the continent could catch her? The little princess did not dare move forward. She found a rock covered in moss on the cliff and sat down. She took out the magnetic sound machine from her chest and carefully adjusted it. She muttered to herself, "I don't know if I can receive a signal here. No matter, I'll give it a try." Z, 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 Z. The magnetic sound machine continued to release a chaotic noise. The little princess slightly knit her brows. Was the distance still too far? While the little princess was a bit depressed, the magnetic sound machine suddenly responded. She heard a burst of pleasant music that came from the magnetic sound machine. Ayaya, I can really hear it. The little princess excitedly jumped up. She immediately switched channels and found that there were quite a few channels that she could receive. Chu Tian really is the #1 genius on the continent, actually inventing this kind of great thing. This is too great. Vivian was so excited that she wanted to shout out loud. The little princess began to look for the content she liked on Miracle Broadcasting. The signal source of Miracle Broadcasting was clearly from Central State, so the station was broadcasting a lot of Central State news and information. Vivian had never been to the human world before, so even the most boring information was a very new experience for her. So the humans made a large theater that could hold several hundred to over 1,000 people. It would be great if our tribe had this kind of theater. Those fellows wouldn't have stolen my video disc player. Wow, powerful, powerful. Did Chu Tian invent something called a communication device? Even if they are separated by tens of thousands of miles, He really is worthy of being the person this princess admires. If the elven tribe had this kind of thing, the elven council wouldn't need to be this troublesome in the future. Little Princess Vivian was like a curious explorer. She sat alone on the pitch-black peak, searching in a daze. The information sent from the human world was like a whole new world for the little princess who had never left the forest before. It completely changed little Princess Vivian's view of the world. She had never seen the world as clearly as she did today. The sky gradually brightened. She had to quickly return. Little Princess Vivian carefully placed the magnetic recording machine in her pocket and jumped off the cliff, instantly disappearing into the air. Ever since she experienced this different night, Vivian could not stop. Every night, she would spend a lot of effort to secretly go to the southern summer country's border and listen to the news from the southern summer country. The elves were very open-minded, but they forbade their clansmen from coming into contact with the outside world, especially with humans. If Vivian was discovered, the consequences would not be a joke. This violated the highest ban of the elves, and it would even be reported to the Elven Council. But Vivian did not care about this. She could not resist the temptation of that mysterious world. Princess Vivian came here that night. When she was about to choose the content she liked to listen to, there was a program about Miracle Commerce's founder, Chu Tian's growth. There were large amounts of views and evaluations from the Heavens Alliance members. This Heavens Alliance was an organization formed by Chu Tian's admirers in the southern summer country. So naturally, it attracted the little princess' interest. Chu Tian's experiences are so legendary. The little princess knew that Chu Tian was an abandoned child of the Central State City Chu family. His parents had been killed, and he had been reduced to a slave. He had coincidentally met Meng, Ying, and finally managed to create such a large business. Life is always more legendary than stories. The little princess listened with great interest, especially the series of things that Chu Tian did afterwards. It made the little princess admire him even more. The little princess could be said to be the most rebellious of the wood elves, so Chu Tian's unruly and unyielding nature suited the little princess' taste. Not to mention that he was this talented. Powerful. He really was worthy of being the person who invented movies and a magnetic sound machine. After paying attention for several days, the little princess understood Chu Tian more and understood Miracle Commerce more and more. She knew who the high-level members of Miracle Commerce were and what they had done. It was as if she was familiar with them. She had already deeply understood Miracle Commerce's charm. This kind of happy and nervous time passed very quickly. The sun was about to rise again. The little princess reluctantly put away the magnetic sound machine and prepared to return to the tribe to come back tomorrow. At this time, a small advertisement from Miracle Commerce caught the little princess' attention. Are you troubled by your mediocre career? Are you troubled by the lack of passion in your life? Are you confused by the monotonous repetition of your days? Miracle Commerce's mercenary group, the Chu sect, is recruiting talents. No matter how low your background is, no matter how high your status is, no matter how strong your cultivation base is, no matter how old you are, no matter where you come from, as long as you have a skill, you'll have the chance to become a member of Miracle Commerce. Let us witness a great miracle together and create a great miracle empire together. At this moment, Vivian's heart began to beat faster. The elves had a very long lifespan, living for at least 500-600 years. If one's cultivation base was a bit higher, living for 1,000 years was not a problem. The elves had a long lifespan, so they could accumulate a large amount of knowledge. But Vivian did not understand. Why would one of the most intelligent races on the continent like to live in seclusion? If the elves were like Chu Tian and used their knowledge and wisdom to benefit the world, wouldn't that be a better choice? If they could go to the continent and achieve great feats that people would envy, then their existence in this world would not be in vain. Vivian gave a soft sigh. Unfortunately, the rules of the elves were very strict. The elders wouldn't allow elves to participate in worldly pursuits and battles. Vivian didn't expect to convince those old fogies. If the elders found out about this, she would be put under house arrest for 8 to 10 years. Vivian turned off the magnetic recording machine and returned to the tribe with a worried expression. For the first time, she began to doubt the iron law of the elves. The next day, when Vivian was prepared to listen to the program, the content of the radio station had completely changed. It was almost completely reporting the situation in the north, saying that the southern summer countries north had been invaded by spirit beasts, and even the kingdom's capital had been defeated. Cruel spirit beasts. This was truly hateful. There were many spirit beasts living in the chaotic forest, and none of these spirit beasts were good things. They were synonymous with bandits. She never thought that even the southern summer country would be bullied by the spirit beasts. The little princess was worried that Chu Tian would be in danger in the southern summer country. In the next few days, the little princess had been paying attention to the situation through the radio. On this night, the Miracle Broadcasting Station released a large amount of urgent purchasing information. Miracle Commerce's chairman Chu Tian has been heavily injured fighting the spirit beasts on the front lines. He needs a level 2 immortal herb that can restore his innate vitality. What? Chu Tian was heavily injured? Vivian was instantly filled with worry. What should she do? She returned to the treehouse to think about it for the entire night. Chu Tian's current situation was very difficult, and he needed help. This favor, Princess Vivian, could help him. If she brought the medicine to him, he would be very grateful, and Princess Vivian could use this chance to get to know Chu Tian. Only if she did this, the risk was very, very large. She couldn't care about that right now. Little Princess Vivian was not a dutiful elf. After she made up her mind, she immediately began to move. You're tuning in to the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.